in case we say something really good. Um, so I've been pondering about the six, and I'm glad you're here, Philippe, being a six line, and you've looked at it a lot. And I hope I can put these ponderings in order, because I kind of ponder like one of those mind maps. Like I go in all these directions and then I put them in order. But I've been thinking about particularly the six beneath the line and the keynotes of it. Like, people will say, well, what is artificial shores? What does it mean light for cognition? Like Max has that. Um, what is innocence? All this stuff. And so I've been pondering this, and what I've come up with as a working theory at this point is that, the six is the one that's beyond the rest of them. The five is actually the penultimate of the process. And you can see that in the base. That's the other thing I was going to look at today. There's only five bases. That really brought it home to me that the six is something else, because it's not a part of the origination of the process. And so the six could not be, in a sense, keynoted to in any kind of homogenized, even in the HD homogenized way, like, well, you're sure, so you should this, or you're innocent, so that. And so my theory is that with whatever keynote you're looking at, whether it's a role model or innocence or the light, for the PHS or the shores, that it goes through the view, which is personal. It's what light is to you, what innocence is to you, what shores are for you, what role model, because and the role model is the most obvious one. It's not a role model that everyone follows to be like you. It's you are the role model of you. It's personal. And then I went farther, because my theory about the whole shebang of it all is that the whole point is the view, because it's the personality crystal that reincarnates over and over and over again for the purpose of seeing, to gain awareness. So it's like the whole thing we're doing here, we get born so we can see. So the view is actually the point of everything, as far as I can tell. And so then I thought, well, maybe each of the views can be the lens, the lens that we look through to all the other colors, to all the other lines. And so then I started playing with that a little bit yesterday. And if this sparks you guys, we can go further into this. And if it doesn't, I have something else we can do. But so I went to the two, because I like going to the two. It's like possibilities is the view. The two view is possibilities. Well, the possibilities is what can bring hope. If everything is only this, there's no hope. But the possibilities is what can bring us hopefulness. Right? The possibilities are in the marketplace. I could have this, I could have that, I could have this, I could have that. What's to my taste? So I'm just kind of playing with this idea that if we take the view as kind of the lens to look at all the other same color, same number in the color or the line. Yeah.
I love this.
You do?
Yes. Well, and can I tell you guys some of my weird stuff?
Yeah.
So I stopped sharing my weird mystical things. And I've started doing it again. And it's interesting because something I've really fought is it's like I can see the bases through myths. And the myths that I always choose are like biblical and like Gilgamesh, I really see it. But it's like life has tried to get me to do it through the Egyptian myths. And I won't, because I think the way I've been treated about human design And it's like for a year I've like refused to do it. And finally yesterday I went out and got the Egyptian Book of the Dead and I'm doing it. And like I've watched my mystical things being pulled out of me. Like it's like time for me to like share different things and stuff. And it's cool because when you look in the Egyptian stuff, it's like I feel like I'm understanding the bases more than ever. Like there was a reason that the voice gave it to Ra through the Egyptian things. And it talks about like I feel like they talked about the bases. Okay. So it's like the first five bases are described through these like animal figures and these like gods and goddesses. And I feel like it's because it's describing the bases of the personality crystal. That's why they're not necessarily human. The next iteration of that, they become these human people with bodies. And I feel like that is describing the basis of the design crystal. And it's like this reiteration that like continues. And so a part that's always been so confusing for me is how half of base two becomes part of base four. And the Egyptians describe it so perfectly because they talk about it. They're like, base two comes out of base one, and you have Shu and Tefnut. And then all of a sudden, at some point, Tefnut's name changes to Tefnut Mat. And that's when she becomes like the truth, like the all, the everything. And it's like that was half of base two going and integrating that anti-neutrino core. And it's like the way that I'm, maybe all of this is like absolutely insane, but like Tierra, whatever you're doing is your version of what I'm doing. And I would just trust it and do it because what you just said is so fucking brilliant. And I feel like it's time for us to find our understanding around this base foundation layer, you know, because we have the possibility of doing that being in the experiment. And it's like if you're putting things together like this, they could help people in the experiment like forever. And I
Well,
feel like it's very resonant for me.
Lacy, that was the other thing I had prepared for today was to talk about the bases. What I'm what I'm seeing happening in me, and maybe you have a similar process, though, you know, of course, you're that 1-3 that goes investigating to get there. And I have that inner vision business also, which kind of like goes in and starts seeing it.
Yeah.
So I've been infected with the base business. And I and what seems so clear, I mean, base, it's the base of everything, right? There's 5 of them. So every single thing that there is, every single one of us is part of one of those 5 aspects, right? So that's what our whole world is made up of. Right. And if we can find a way, if I can find a way, we can find a way. That was funny what just happened in my head. To communicate this to people, I imagine that they could click on it and go, oh yeah, I'm that. Oh yeah, of course I'm that. And then that could be the very key that helps people target their birth time. So instead
Yes.
of base being the thing, oh, don't even look at base because you can't know it because you don't, if you don't know your birth time, it can actually flip and go, if you can determine your base, but you have to kind of like see it from within, then that can help you see your birth time.
Yeah.
And I've even been looking, you know, like I watch series and stuff. I just love it. I'm like, oh, this guy's a base 3 for sure. He's always like cooperate, cooperate, cooperate. You know, it's like I'm starting to like see the pictures of it all. So what I had thought to do with us today is just do a little guided inner journey of the bases as they come out of me at this moment, and just see what happens about that.
I'd love that.
Yeah, you up for that, Philippe?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hey, can I tell you something first? So
Uh-huh.
yesterday I sit down with our marketing person, she's a reflector, and she stops me and she's like, "Tell me, are you a strategic mind?" And I was like, funny enough, someone has invited me to look at this, and I told her the whole thing, and she was like, "I recognize you as that." So this is the crazy part about that story, okay? So I see the people as planets, and I saw her as something. And she was when I decided to stop telling people. So I didn't tell her what I saw her as. And I see her as Chiron.
Ooh.
So I get together with her, and I know I see her as this, but I'm not telling her. And she sends me her chart, and we're going through our charts, and we both only have 55.2 in our open emotions. That's the place that Chiron was
Hey,
discovered.
stop it.
So then I get on with you like 2 days later, and you change my time, and that changes that gate on my chart. That
Oh,
was the only
that's
gate.
right. That was the main thing. That's right.
So it's like I went into this Chiron experience where I was no longer sharing myself. And we met through that theme of 55.2. You came and you're like, hey, in this desire, you're not your need. And you fixed that. And it changed me out of the Chiron line. And it's like it just tells me everything, you know. And I went back to her and I was like, I gotta tell you how I see you. And she had this huge thing about it. It's like it's happening through all of us.
So
Like the fact that you did that with my birth time and then someone else confirmed it for me, I'm like, that's communion in the experiment. And I get to show that to my course creating people. I'm like, courses are what we think we know. Live stuff is sharing what we see now. I was like, no analyst could have helped me correct my motivation. I got that out of communion in my experiment. And even if who cares about the information? Like, if what I need is to allow my mind to be in that need place, then the experiment will give it to me regardless of any words.
yeah. And did it change your base? I don't remember.
It did. It changed my conscious base to a base 1.
Okay. So that's
And I
interesting.
was a base
And
2. Yeah.
it was a 2. I see you. I can see you as a 1.
Me too, because
That's the
I'm
part
one.
I've really been
Yeah,
sitting
we're
on.
all ones here then. That's
We're all
good.
one. Yeah.
Okay, so let's just see what happens. I hope the dog, there's a guy outside. He's very cool and he's working on the yard, so she gets a little protected. It's a good girl. Okay, so let's just, if you want to close your eyes or just focus however you want to focus within, and take a couple of nice breaths, just nourishing breaths. Just remember that that breath goes everywhere in the body. And simply taking a breath can be everything, can be a moment that nourishes everything. And just imagine tumbling, tumbling, tumbling back to the beginning. Tumbling back to the beginning. Landing in the moment of creation, the moment of creation. Whoosh. Wow. And it bursts forth, it bursts forth, it bursts forth, and we are. We are, we are, we are. We are. And what is first is the base 1. And it is moving forward into new territory, moving forward and seeing. What is? What can we create? What can we create? What is? This is. We must go where no one has gone before. And in going, in discovering, in finding, we must be safe, be aware, be aware, be aware. We must survive, be safe, be aware. Create a foundation. Find what is new, find what is new. And once the territory has been found, we bring in the builders. Let's build, let's build, let's build. And it's only in the building does cooperation even become an aspect of the whole. Help me over here, would you? Here, let's do that together because we can do it better together. Okay, I'm going to keep working on this. You go build over there. Let's build. Let's make something. Okay, we have built. We have something. We have a place. This is our place. Let's cooperate so we can get along. If we can't get along, we can't exist. Let's get along. Let's get along now so we can have our place together. Let's have our place together. And we form the circle. And the circle holds. And the circle maintains. And the grandmothers have kept the circle from that time until this time. And then come the rule makers. Well, let's make rules so that even if we don't get along, we can keep our place. Let's make rules. Let's make schools. Let's find ways that people can function. Let's make this functional. Can we make this functional even if we don't get along? Let's make some institutions and make some rules. And who enforces these rules? We need lawgivers. We need lawkeepers. People who stand and keep the rules so that we can keep the structure. And the ones are back out looking for new territory. I don't care about these rules. I want to go for what's new. Let me find something new. And then the builders follow. And then cooperation ensues. And the lawgivers step in. And throughout it all is the five who is universalizing the whole process. Can we do this over and over again? Can we do this over and over again? The archetype of building, of creating and building cooperation and rules. Can we do it? Can we hold the universality of this process? Going into new territory. What is new? New inner territory. New ways of being. And then universalizing so we can do it over and over and over again. Tumbling from the very first moment into this moment now. This moment now. Breathing in this moment now. Seeing yourself. Are you a discoverer, a builder, a cooperator, a lawmaker, or an archetype that holds it all together? See it now. For what you began in the very beginning, so you are now until the end. And taking a breath. Sweet, sweet nourishment of the breath. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and be here. loving and appreciating who you have always been.
Mm.
Ah, that was a fucking trip.
Nice.
I loved it. I fucking loved that.
That was a whole, oh my God. Woo!
That's like I experience it in that way. You know, like I experience it in like visuals inside of me. And I love how you just put it in the story format because I feel like that's what like I am like doing. And I feel like it's so important for us to understand that story. You know, I feel like that's what every single religion has tried to write that story. Every single human being has worked together to try to bring that story to fucking planet Earth. And the crazy thing is that part of the closing of the door is accepting that we couldn't, you know, because the voice did. And because the voice did, we get to like build it and see it and create that foundation. But we have to accept that Raw didn't do it. You know, it's like we get to bring it and all that stuff. But it's like, this is what humans have always tried to do. This is what they've always tried to understand. And we have the opportunity, not just because of us, but because of the whole thing.
I like this awareness of the base being the foundation that is always, there because um I'm sure you both can relate. Like we're here because it continues. We could just be the one, right? We could just be the people
Right.
making the new thing happen all the time. But no, because there's all these other bases, we have to continually be poking holes in those. That's
No,
one of the things we're doing. Like we are like, that's why, like when you were like doing the lawmakers and I was like, fuck that. There's a part of me that's like,
Okay, I'm out of here now.
no, no, you can't, and yet I realize, but it was just like the history of humankind, like the whole thing, just this.
yeah.
And I kept thinking it's like these games. I have these friends who are really into this game, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's this like colonization game. And there are these pretty like woke
And
people who
Settlers at
really,
Catan.
yes, settlers of Catan.
Yes.
And I'm like, why are you playing that? It's like this weird empirical
Yeah.
colonization. You're just like,
Yeah.
oh no, we just love it. And I'm like, like it feels like,
We
and
are
this is always
transcending authority. We have
it's
to understand it. It's like we're transcending authority. Like we have to understand this organization of people and what makes people listen. And it's like I feel like my friends were playing Catan at the last birthday party we went to. And I feel like that's what everyone's trying to do. They're trying to understand that organization, you know?
yeah. But it's so like there's a big part of me that just like, fuck that. Like I'm like always, and of
Yeah.
course I have the power view too. So it's like, you know, understanding and looking, that's the whole thing for me, is to understand the power and understand where the power come from and what it's doing and how it's played out and how I can get it, you know, and use it. I don't, there's just, it's so wild. And then when you were like the fifth line, oh, that whole archetype thing, I was just like, but it, I don't know. It's so interesting because I was also seeing how weird it is that, so I'm going to bring something else into this, which is the quarters and how that relates to the
Yes.
base. Talked
Yes.
about the quarters being
I
so
was
important.
thinking, yes, I
The
was thinking about
foundational.
that too.
And I was like, oh, that's so weird that I'm like a first base, but I'm in the quarter of civilization, which is a builder.
Uh-huh.
And Max is a second base. I pretty much believe that he is
I am agreeing with
builder.
you. Uh-huh.
But he's the first,
Isn't that interesting?
he's in the first quarter of initiation. So we have like this weird
Yeah.
opposite
Resonating.
thing. Yeah, which I mean, I don't know. It
Yeah.
just started, having like all these
Yeah.
light bulbs go off in my head about what our relationship is and why it works and why it doesn't sometimes, like what's so conflicting. And you had said something about two people of the same gender having a difficulty with the first and the second
Oh,
base.
that's right. Yeah.
And but it's also like amazing. I mean, like if I'm initiating the thing, having the new idea, going forward with the thing, he follows along building.
Yeah.
He does it, it works beautifully.
Yeah.
But it is weird that we have the opposite in the
Yeah.
in the quarters, So
Yeah,
and
because you initiate from the base, but he initiates from the quarter.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
fascinating. And I can see the 2 and the 4 thing. When I did that, it became clear, like it could have been 3 bases. You begin it, you build it, you cooperate. You begin it, you build it, you cooperate. But
Yeah.
humans don't seem to be able to do that. If we could have, because there, this is a little thing that I see. It's so easy to bash the patriarchy. Oh, the
Yeah.
patriarchy this and the patriarchy that. But what it seems to me, if you go back far enough to the matriarchy, it didn't work any better
No.
because it was a
There's
close.
a reason. There's a reason why the dudes rose up.
Yeah, the council of the grandmothers didn't give the men, the masculine, any power whatsoever, and the feminine can hold all the power forever. So like the base 4 comes in and said, no, we can't just have it be this little nice cooperative circle, because there's not room for everyone in it. If you're going to build something, if you're going to build a school, let's have some laws so that everything can be accounted for, not just the people who hold the power, not just the grandmothers who keep the cooperative circle. So I could see that helped me see the 2 and the 4, how they
Oh,
have
wow.
that whole thing
And
linked.
and then the 4, so is the in that version of thing, is the patriarchy the 4?
Well, it's kind of patriarchal in my mind, merely
Right.
because what matriarchy is, that circle.
Yeah.
Women naturally form a circle and kind of share. It's like we kind of
Yeah.
just do that. Whereas men historically have more of a hierarchical process, and rules have hierarchies. Institutions have hierarchies. If you're going to build that school so all the children can get educated, then you're going to end up with the principal or the, whatever those things
Yeah.
are. Yeah.
I wrote
Oh,
that because I knew it'd be too confusing for me to say it. But it's
okay.
like the way that you took it into quarters, I wanted to write that because when that 2 becomes the 4, this is the way I see it. So it's like, think of the monopole as this like giant black bird that flies in and it gives birth. And when it gives birth, it has 2 children.
Okay.
And in the Bible, this would be like Adam and Lilith. And
Right.
when you read the parts of the Bible that have been taken out, it talks about Lilith and how she had to leave. And so Adam got to stay, and Lilith had to leave to go integrate base 4. She had to go to the devil. So she went and integrated the anti-neutrino to become base 4. And that is the heart center. The emotions feeding creates the heart, the progress, the neutrinos, the what's next. And then it's like that 5 being the crown personality. And I haven't figured out the design bases, like where I feel as solid as this one, but I think that that's coming with the Egyptian stuff. And like that helps me understand the sinners in such a way. Like, why is the spleen the body? Well, it's like if Adam or Jesus was like the male figure that stayed at the beginning of time with God, the photon, it's like that's the light body, that's the spleen. And then it's like the emotional wave, it went to the end of time. And that's why you've got this duality, and they meet in the now. So you've got like light coming from before and you've got sound coming from after, meeting in the now. And that's like our reality. This is my craziness.
So Lilith would be the mutative principle.
Yeah.
And that would go well with the fourth quarter, which is, of course, mutation. How is the fourth base mutation? Because that seems very unmutative to me at first glance.
Yeah.
So it's like if Lilith was half of the electron and she went and she grabbed the anti-neutrino core. She was Tefnut and she became Matt. So it's almost like the mutation takes place between 2 and 4, and 4 is the result of the mutation.
Well, I have seen very clearly when we were on the, when I was teaching the quarters and we were learning the quarters, how the two opposite quarters are the same whole. It's just, so civilization and mutation, you build something and then it mutates, and then you build the new thing, and then it mutates, and then you build the new thing, and then it mutates. And Lawrence, whose quarter of mutation, has seen that without a form, a civilization that he can stand on, his mutative process is not empowering to him.
Yeah.
So is
And-
the third base the mutative then?
Well,
I mean,
yeah, that's,
I mean, in a way, it seems like
It's more of like a
the
consumption.
third would be duality, cooperation.
okay, right.
And I see the 3 as like, it's like I see the 1 as the neutron. Ross said that 3 were the quarks, which would make it the neutron and the proton. But I see it like 1 is neutron, 2 is electron, 3 is proton, 4 is neutrino, and 5 is gluon.
What's a gluon?
It's like this particle that holds 2 colors, 2 opposite colors together. And I feel like at this point in time, that's what like our spiritual journey is to become something that watches 2 things.
So the gluon is a glue?
Yeah, it's kind of like a glue. Isn't that funny? Well, it's like when I think about the heart, if the heart is really like, if the heart going into the monopole is about holding together and separation, the gluon does that. It holds 2 different things together in one thing.
That's the whole monopole story.
Exactly. And why is the crown yellow? Like the monopole.
Monopole, Ra connects the monopole to the base 1.
I do too. I connect the crown to the 5 because that would be the personality, which would be like
Right.
the reiteration of all 4 working together. So all 4 came together to create the crown.
And that's the archetype that you're
Not
talking
the
about.
archetype.
So in this story,
Mhm.
what is the 6?
The 6 is what's saying, what's next? What's next? What's next? It's like the,
Does
that
the 6
Ra,
recognize
the
the change?
Ra has that woodcut that he likes, it's from the Middle Ages, where there's the earth and the guy is poking his head out of the earth. That's the 6.
Yeah. So the 6,
But it's not a base. It's
not a
not
base,
a fundamental building
yeah,
block, so to speak.
outside the base.
It's outside. It's let's see if we can, the other one. So you brought in the power view, and I was looking at the power view. So if we look at the other 3 colors and the 3 whatever, so can you relate, Philippe, to looking at your thirst, wet thirst, as through the lens of power? Like when you look at what are you going to, like, just bear with me for a minute. So what are you going to eat, right? What are you going to eat? What if instead of just going, is that hot, say, does that have power for me? I mean, it's cool for you because you also have power view. But like
Yeah.
if Hanale were here, I would ask her that too, because she has well, she's the kitchen. So we could see if there's the power kitchen.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, power. Yeah, I mean,
Power desire.
I think of it.
Like, does this desire hold power?
So for me with the hot thirst, for instance, I think of that directly as fuel,
Yeah. Well, there
which
you
is
go.
power. Like I see it when I see food, I think of it as fuel. That's how I relate to it. That's why I like have in a little while, I will go make my drink with my butter and my fat and caffeine and stuff because it's literally fuel for my body. So yes, power. It's like
Yeah.
gasoline.
The
Yeah.
the powerful thirst.
And the weird thing is
That's even a phrase people have, a powerful thirst
I
for
have a
that.
powerful thirst for, yeah, I do. I definitely have a powerful thirst
Yeah.
for a lot of things. I
Yeah.
get for
And that is the
sure.
metaphor. Oh, here's the other pondering I've come up with lately is that I don't know if you've listened much to Ra about the PHS, but he'll say things like, um, if you're hot thirst, it's it's because your body is too cool, so you need to heat up your digestive system in order to digest.
Yeah.
But then I also hear him say these are people who bring the hot, bring the heat, bring the, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's actually contradictory.
It is
And,
contradictory.
and then
But
I've
we
always,
do bring the heat. We bring the heat if we are in our proper PHS.
that's the answer. And so that, yeah, I just, it was like, well, oh, until you're doing your PHS. And what it made me think of, and he doesn't say this, but it's so obvious, is when you look at the motivation, you start on the side of your not self and you move toward yourself. So you, Philippe, start as a theist and move to anti-theist. I
Yeah.
start as a communalist and move to a separatist. So it would make sense that that would happen on the design side. I start from being tasteless and become really tasteful.
Mm.
You start
What's your
as too
journey,
cool and
Lacy?
become hot.
Yeah. What's your journey, Lacy? That
So
Well,
if
uh
you
you,
know, it's changing. On my conscious side, if I'm looking at two. So the one that I've always looked at before was leader to follower. And the one that I'm looking at now is novice to master.
that's the one.
You think so?
Oh
yeah,
my God. Yeah, totally. Oh
totally.
my God. Doesn't that ring true, Tiara?
Yes.
Like it's just like
That makes
I
so
didn't
much,
even know what you
that
were gonna
makes
say, but
so much
you
more
said it,
sense.
I know.
It's crazy to me because I can really conceptualize both kind of in the same way because I was a leader. Like I was the person that would tell anybody like, "Oh, I can help you know what to do." You know, like I'll hold you, I'll love you, stay with me forever. And I moved into follower
Mhm.
because I all of a sudden didn't know what they should do or where they should go or who they were. And all I had was the ability to follow my authority. All I had was the ability to follow life. And I was like, okay, like there it is. But it's funny because some people will look at me and be like, you know, you haven't even been through your cycles, like you're so young, like all this stuff. But I had this visceral change. It's also like I can see the novice to master, and I can see that through many things in my life, like gymnastics and, you know, all the things that I've mastered. Like I could even say like the material plane, and that's why I had the opportunity for my mind to shatter, you know, and now I'm trying to master like alignment and my seeing. And so it's like I can really see mastery too.
Yeah, it's interesting that both of those could be true. Yeah.
It's like maybe at the end you can make them all tie into that part. Like maybe they can all at the end lead to inner authority, whether it's theist, anti-theist, maybe that's like the place they all go.
Well, the thing is, so here's the thing about the tonal trajectory on the personality side, and maybe we would go here next because I just love this shit so much, is we are each designed for a mystical process, but not everyone gets it. Like there's one there for everybody. And it's when you have that mystical experience, that's when you land on your trajectory, and you land in the side of who you are not and walk forward
Oh,
with who you are,
amazing.
right? So it could be that your breakdown, Lacy, was your mystical experience. If you're,
Yes.
so this may be even a clue. So if you were the 3 color, your mystical experience would have to do with ghosts. If you're a 4, it would have to do, well, this is obvious. What were you just talking about a minute ago? Gods, goddesses.
Mm, there we go. That's why I understand it through the myths so well. Oh my fucking God.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're speaking to you. And the thing is, the 1, 2, or 3, which is the angels, demons, ghosts, are not meant to share their process. The 4, 5, and 6 have to share their process or they go mad. Because if you
Oh
have
my God.
and the whole course is called encounter, if you have an encounter with a god or a goddess, one of those archetypes, and you don't share it, it will shatter you.
Yes, I'm like to the point where I'm finally ready to just fucking share it, regardless of every other mind, including my own.
And that lands you on your trajectory. Now, Philippe, you have the whole demon thing, and none of these things are what we think they are. They are actually
Right.
just crystal bundles. The 4, 5, and 6 are the original crystal bundles, which are these massive things that we came out of. The 1, 2, and 3 are the little ones that have been created along the way, and we think that they're gods, or I mean, we think that they're angels, demons, or both.
Wow.
But if I saw it, I'd think it looked like an angel, and Philippe might think it looked like a demon. It doesn't mean it's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about the demon experience to me, because of you and Tolly, is that the demon encounter is the one where you sign the pact with the devil and you become rich and famous. And I think it's peculiar because there's so much, conspiracy theorists out there right now of all these people in Hollywood who signed devil pacts and da 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 da. And who knows if maybe they did, and that is the demon experience, but it's not you become an evil thing and you lose your soul. It's
Well, I mean, I had that experience with my guru who did that. I mean,
that's what I
I'm pretty
thought.
sure
Right.
he did sign that. I'm pretty sure he signed that thing, and then I saw the demon. I
Yeah,
actually physically saw the demon, and I do talk about it, not very often, but
yeah,
even
Wow,
though I'm
that's the feelings I get from you. Because
yeah.
it's like you were telling me about it, and I was like, he's seeing it in such a negative, like, feeling, but it's like you're not. It's like it was like in that light, it was perfect for you to see it in the way that you did,
oh yeah,
maybe.
I was super lucky, and I craft my whatever whoever I am crafted it, I think, so perfectly to be able to have that moment where I saw the demon for what it was and stared it down, and
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
something that just
And then
changed
you can
me
see,
irrevocably.
and then
Yeah.
you can see when you looked at the demon, I'm making this shit up, and this is a question, even though it doesn't sound like it, you could see the possibilities. Well, I could just keep
Mm.
following him. I could leave. He could this, he could that. And the possibilities of not just this one trajectory is how you could maintain the hope. Again, I'm connecting those.
Yeah,
The
very much so. Very
Yeah,
much so. It opened that.
yeah. I had I mean, an archetypal mystical experience that I have shared all over the place because it was just before I met human design. So I am surrendered to that. I shared it, and now the angel, is bossing me around. Apparently, angels are bossy. Okay.
Yeah, I'm definitely still dancing with the demon, I guess,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
That
So,
share.
I had an archetypally intense dream and mystical experience just before my first Camino. And my first Camino was the one and only time I have ever felt a communalist experience that felt good. I actually, the only time in my life that I felt part of the group. And I'd been wanting to be part of the group my whole life, which is ironic, right? So I finally was part of the group. And from that first Camino to this moment, I have steadily walked to being a separatist.
More and
And
more.
I have nothing to do with any kind of groupie thing. Yeah, it's just,
Yeah, it really was the end. That moment of seeing the demon was the end of my
yes, that was
awareness
the
of
end.
that there was any kind of God. Like I was
Yeah,
just like, no,
yes,
it doesn't exist. It does not exist.
yeah,
And I had spent, my whole life otherwise, you know,
right.
chasing it, looking for it,
Yeah,
diving into it, experiencing what I would say a Godhead experience. I had those experiences. I do not deny them
yeah,
as real for myself in those periods or anybody else. But for me now, there is no God. There
no,
is nothing outside of me that
no.
exists. And I have since then I have not had one moment of
Yeah,
doubt
either.
or going back with that. It was just like,
Yeah,
oh,
boom,
this
landed on your cross.
the thing. I'm like, no, this is not. So yeah,
Now, the
that when we
one,
explored that before, it was such a revelatory
yeah,
uh, awakening. Really.
it's cool that we started out with you talking about that, so this can be so clear right now. The other thing that Ra talks about in the encounter course is that, pretty sure he says most of the time, the encounter happens in a tribal gate, and it's in a tribal gate that is not part of a whole channel. Now, I might, with your permission, I might put this on my YouTube channel so I can see if anyone wants to chime in about all of this, because
Sure.
I imagine that my encounter happened in the 6th gate, which is a tribal gate, but it's part of a channel. But everything that all of the ways that I've looked at this, it's like, I think it must have happened because there was such a flavor of sexuality with it for me. It was a whole sexual trip. And it happened at my Chiron return, and my 59 is in a gate 6, which would be one of the 4 gates that I would have had that tripart process of the 6th line. So if anyone's listening to this, if I do put this on YouTube and anyone listens to this, has done any investigating, can you have a mystical experience in a tribal gate that's part of a channel? Now,
Is the 55 a tribal gate?
hmm?
Is the 55 a tribal gate?
No, that's very individual.
Great. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm pretty positive
My
that
tribal gates are all part of channels, I think.
mine is 54. Like that's the gate that I assume that my stuff happens through. And it's cool because I see myself as Uranus, and I have 54.4 in Uranus, which is the gate in line of enlightenment and darkness. And I have 54 5 times. And I literally feel like Pluto is like 32 and she's just plugged into my 54 all of the time. Like, isn't that just the strangest thing? And I feel like it is tribal. Like, I feel like it's about that. It's the only reason why humans would need information. It's like right education for right now, feeding the bellies right now. Like, that's what the force is. Like, that's the continuity and the reason for the laws and da da da. So it's like, I really think it's cool that it's such a tribal thing. And I love that question about the channel because I've wondered that myself.
Have you? Yeah, well, we'll see if Ross says that his encounter happened in the 40.2.
Mm.
And that's obviously, that's a tribal gate, and he doesn't have the 37. And then he had this whole trip, and he definitely went from, well, I don't know if he was a follower. I don't know enough about his early life, but he started becoming the leader at that point. That set him on his path to leading us all to human design. All of we who are lucky,
Yeah.
all the lucky people.
So yeah, that's be
Did
interesting.
he
How
associate
can you
it?
tell?
I'm wondering if he associated with the channels. Because for me, so when my mind shattered, Pluto was in 54.4. And like since then, it's just been there, So it's like mine was very like transit. And
Interesting.
it wasn't even that it was on the opposite side. Pluto was in my gate that I already have defined. So I'm really interested in like the timing of it.
Hmm. Yeah, I could probably find out what the date and time around anyway that I had my encounter,
Hmm.
because of the things that were happening in there's a timeline that involves other people that I think I may be able to find that out. Do you think that's worth looking at?
Yeah,
I
let's
think that
take
could
a
be
look.
fun.
Well, I know the time actually. So from there I went to Canterbury. I think it might have been the 3rd.
I'll be right back.
I love this. This is so cool. These are things that I've thought about and wondered for so long, and I have no one to go here with me. And it's like you opening up with the bases today. I'm like, oh my God, no wonder I texted you, like, hey, are you coming? I was waiting for this day.
Yeah, I'd have to look back because I obviously know the year because that was my first Camino, 2005.
Mm.
And I started my Camino, I could maybe figure it out if I went
I'd
back.
love to do that.
Yeah, I wonder what was in. Yeah, I'll do that. It would take me to, it
What
would,
makes you think it was 6? Like, do
because
you
it
have
was,
like a,
because it was so sexual.
because it was so sexual. Wow.
Yeah.
6 is so mystical to me because I have 59 and my parents had gate 6 like everywhere. So we had this channel growing up and none of us had defined emotions. So it's so interesting because I feel like I get a lot of sexual projection, but like gate 6 to me, it's more like almost like nurturing and like intimacy, like true intimacy, like communication and sharing what you feel and it's like so not sexual because I was like raised by it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Isn't
Well,
that
and
funny?
the other thing I've thought of about this is that my 59 and my 6 do not resonate. I have the 59 in the line 1 and in the line 6, but my my gate 6 is in the line 2. That doesn't resonate to the 6 or to the 1. So it's
So
kind
you
of
would be
standing on
thinking you
its
had it in a
own.
channel. Yeah.
So it's in a channel, but it's not in a channel that it has a resonance to.
Well, I wonder if that could impact it, like give the forces a place to kind
I
of slip
wondered
in.
that too, because the line 2 is the one that gets called, you know.
Right.
So these are things I've pondered. I actually posed this question on Facebook quite a long time ago, a bunch of years ago. And this woman was like, oh yeah, I've looked at this a lot. And I said, great, give me what you've seen. And all she did was quote Ra to me. I was like, no,
Yeah.
I can find Ra. I love Ra. I mean, that's not a problem in and of itself, but I was wondering if someone who had looked at the experience of other people, having the mystical experience and what they've seen,
Yeah, it's like we have the energy to experiment. So we're looking for people who have outer authority now. Tell me your personal experiences. I'm collecting data, I'm repeating and experimenting, and I'm writing it down so that I can validate it and, protect the future. So it's like, I love that we get to do that because you had to experiment to be able to do that. And that's why you guys are so valuable for me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good one, Tree.
Yeah.
Um, hmm. So the sixth line thing, for some reason, I'm the sixth.
You know, the alien thing. So it's funny to me because I help people with aliens because
Uh-huh.
there's Facebook people that post about aliens coming every year. And they convince, you know, by Lionsgate, they've got like thousands of people believing this, and they do it every single year. And it's like, why is sixth line like alien? You know, it's like, I love the human design definition of, you know, stars have personality crystals that we can connect to and receive information from and all this stuff. And so it's funny because we have people that really believe aliens are coming here. Like we have people that really think that these aliens are telling us instructions and all of this stuff. And it's like
Math
six
is
is
one of
the
those
only
people.
base that's not there,
Right.
you know?
Interesting. Yeah. So the
I feel like
sixth,
more people talk about that than anything spiritually right now. Aliens.
I
Not
think there's a thing, what it, because there's something about, I think aliens are the only ones of these characters that are in bodies.
Mm. Oh, that is so good.
Isn't that weird? Like
that's
they're in they're off planet, but they're in bodies.
in bodies.
They have bodies. They're not like all
Right,
the other things are out of body. They're
right.
all
They're just like a
disembodied.
vibratory field.
Yeah, and they like are, maybe they were like ghosts were in a body,
Right, but they're not
you know,
now.
they're
Yeah,
not now. Any of the other ones are not.
interesting. Yeah, it's a new thing. It's a new world. The six is
I
looking
love
at the
this.
next world.
Well, and think about this. It's like at the end of the cycle, I feel like you have to embody. Like whether we have splenic awareness or whatever level of awareness we're in, you have to embody. And that's how you might survive the flood. And so it's like in this cycle, I see the flood as being like the neutrinos changing. And if we are our mind, we are going to live that out mentally. But if we are in our body, we can allow the neutrinos to change without taking it personal, all of this stuff. And so it's like embodiment is always the final step at the end of the round to me. And so the fact that you just said that was so amazing because that's like the six sitting back on the roof and it's bringing in this thing that
Coming
no
back.
mind cares about. It's like it has to come from nowhere.
And the tone, which I'm still looking at, is touch.
Oh my
Mm.
gosh.
Oh, wow, wow. Mhm.
You can't touch a god or a ghost or an angel or a demon or a
Oh, but you could touch an alien.
or an
Well,
entity.
and think about the people who talk about alien abductions and being like,
Going home. Yeah, you can touch. Yeah, the
Remember that?
the
In EP,
God, the
this is,
painting.
they have the, yeah.
for as long as I've been learning human design, and I think this comes from my motivation one, I have to get to the bottom of it. I can't just memorize things.
Right.
I couldn't memorize things even if I wanted to memorize things, but that doesn't give me anything to memorize something. I have to understand the foundation of it, and then I just have it. Then I can expand my awareness and look into things and this whole thing that I do. And so when I've been teaching myself to learn the lines and the colors and all those things that have the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I go, well, a one is a one is a one is a one. So let me interchange a keynote from this position to that position. It should be the same. Even when Ra first started teaching this, he had the same keynotes for the PHS and the motivation. They were the PHS keynotes.
Mm.
And for the 4 on the personality side, which I call it inner vision because they don't relate to the word meditation. So I actually as often use those keynotes.
Mm.
But the 6, and I can do it with all of them. The two, I was like, how are Markets and Hermit? I finally put that together because It's both about being called. I can be totally in a hermit state out in the marketplace until something calls me forward, right?
Yeah.
But the 6, and it was the touch that I hadn't quite grasped. The personal, the light, the innocence, the shores, all of that I can, the touch, what are you touching? But you touch the alien.
Yeah. That's why you look into the, that's why you're looking into the beyond when you're standing at the shore.
Yeah,
You need
you're
that
looking in.
vast space because you're just conceptualizing within that space.
And
you know what else?
Max was the one who brought it home a little bit, because I asked him this because he has the cognition of touch on his PHS side. Well, are we on that chart?
I
Whether
think
he
so.
does or not, it's still that he's touching the light body.
Yeah.
Mm.
Not only that, but if you're on the roof, you're close to the aliens.
Yes,
Like you're
Yeah.
looking out there
that's right.
and down, but you're also looking out there. You're on the roof,
Right.
you're um yeah, the
Well,
highest
it's
closest to the alien.
You're touching into new dimensions.
that's the thing because it's so terrible that the locks and keys can just change. And how do we learn what to do once they do? And when do we know that they're doing it? You know, like if that happens and no human mind knows that that's happening, we have to have these people that are watching so that they can see it. Because no news outlet can tell us that's going to happen. We can't track it like we track, you know, fires or volcano eruptions, or it just happens. And people have to become aware that it's happening because it kills us.
Yeah.
And it's like that brings in the new light body embodiment, um, new way of being, like the next whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
Which is the one.
The new one. So it's like Cleopatra
Like the
going
one
into
base.
Egypt
Where the one
from
base.
Alexandria, right? And going and like seeing all this new. And you know, it's like that's when the new comes in, and it's weird. Like the end is so weird to me because it's like the mind gets to take in everything. And then it's like everything gets destroyed. It's like you build the Library of Alexandria and then it's burnt down. You know, it's like Cleopatra learned 80 billion languages for what?
She did?
Yeah, it's like she knew all these languages. She like ran businesses and memorized all these like maths and sciences. She was like a genius. It's like the mind gets to take in all the stuff at the end of the round. And then boom, it's like collapse and you're going into a new order.
Boom.
This I was going to say something about this awareness of the sixth line. The way I experience is that I when I'm just relaxed in my environment, I definitely experience that I see everything clearly.
Mm.
I see the big picture, past, present, future, all linking together,
Wow.
and I understand it all. It's just clear.
That's relaxing.
Yeah, it's so great. And I just noticed that and I was like, "Oh yeah, I have this ability with people in my tribe or friends, like they'll kind of come to me for clarity." And it's not anything self that knows this. And I've had this since I was a child. It's not like something that I've learned.
It's like a
And
zooming out
it
and
is.
organizing within.
It's
Yeah.
like I zoom out and I see the whole picture. And it's interesting because then having the power view, that's that's part of what I'm understanding, is that from that frame, is I'm understanding the power moving
The rise and fall of everything.
all of everything. Yeah.
Yeah. That's peripheral, because you have that peripheral power view, which would be different than a focused power view would be looking at that powerful thing, that powerful thing.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's more like the whole
Yeah,
big
the
picture.
thing.
Big picture. I like big picture things. It's my favorite. Like if I get to be in a role where I get to just sit there and share the big picture, it's the best.
Nice. You know, Stephen has that peripheral power view as well, and he says sometimes he looks at cities and he can see the whole city, and there's all the buildings, but underneath those buildings is all the holes that were built to put the foundation.
Mm.
He sees
Yeah.
the whole city like that.
Yeah.
And he also sees all the power that's all the power lines that are then, and all those power lines are
yeah,
underground, and yeah,
whole grid above and
that
everything. Yeah.
whole,
Yeah.
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 Hmm.
There's something too about the new that happens with the labeling, because the labeling is so damn mystical to me. And you guys really helped me get my labels right. Like what you did for me with invitations versus informing has been really good. Like my motivation, like that's you helping me label myself correctly. And that is mystical as shit to me. And so it's like that's part of what we're doing too. We are just like going under the labels and we're like, is this correct? Like, and we have the authority to do that. And I think that's really cool just based on our resonance. And then sharing that experience, it's like everybody can kind of come together and take what resonates, leave the rest. It's like a deepening. And when you deepen into, you get access to labeling more or something.
Yeah, I practice whenever possible using keynotes of the people I'm with. So just even like a simple thing like, Lacy, you are so profoundly individual that I would practice using the word empowerment. And Philippe is super tribal, so I would use the word support. And Lily's very collective, so I often say the word share.
Oh, wow.
Some people are all of them, so it depends what what the context is. But in general, I look to do that. And I've even said to people, because support is a word that a lot of people use, and I know a bunch of people who have no tribal and they use support. I said, what if you shift that word to empowerment? And I can see them kind of light up.
There's big differences, and we're getting to look at them with the website, because it's like we get to look at it. It's like analysts, like we kind of want to support you tribally. Like we want to give you a place and a page that talks about you and a button for people to click and book a reading with you. Like we want to support you and we want to get like funds coming to you. And it's like the collective, oh, you have a personal brand and you write a human design blog. We invite you to share on our platform so that more people can see and you can share with more people. And then it's like you have the individual aspect with like the live shows over time, where it's like sit with people who are sharing what they see and who are like looking under the labels and moving with the experiment. Like that's for you to sit and hear people with outer authority and hear them living the life. And so it's like to bring all three of those very different things in. That's been so much part of the confusion, and I feel like all three are so necessary in the whole, like and I think that's why I'm so obsessed with studying, systems. Like what type of system where you bring everybody together and abundance happens for all parties. And it's not just like, business to customer and it's about like one party serving another. It's like a bunch of parties, and in being together, every party is served, you know?
Hmm.
So what was going through my head as you were talking about this is, this sounds very base two to me. It sounds very buildery.
Well, too, like my sun is gate 2. I've got my sun, Venus, moon all in Taurus. So I'm like a lot of civilization, a lot of like building and all of that stuff.
It could
It's
be
like
coming from that, yeah.
so much of my sun is receiving, and then based on what I receive, and it's funny because my sun is literally like intuition to disharmony and atrophy. So I'm here to like resonate to things that are falling apart, and then we can build something new.
Yeah, and you get the people around you to build the thing too.
Yeah. It's so funny. I've been trying to watch that, like initiation processes, like how I create movement in others and trying to like support their uniqueness in that and like show up to them in their specific way. Like with the website, we've got like a reflector, a generator, a projector, and it's like showing up to them and initiating them in their, and it's so wild to watch how the action starts and how people will start building. And a lot of times they do it when I don't intend it at all. And then when I'm looking for them to do action, I can't get them to do it. And so it's such an interesting thing watching people start to build around me, but not really being in control of any of that in itself. Like it's so interesting.
Mm.
Manifestors are in a weird time.
Why is that? I agree with you. Why do you say that?
It's like so much of what I'm
Is it
doing,
the
like,
end?
yeah, it's like 3 people need to be allowed. Completely open centers, projectors, and what's the other one I'm passionate about? But it's like the projectors, like my reflector dropped this on me yesterday. She was like, we're building a place for projectors. Oh, emotional people. The wave needs to be allowed. But it's like, I'm literally building, this team with me. We're building this place for projectors to guide. Like, if projectors are ever going to have the ability to guide, they're going to have a system that allows them to do that, where they make money for being guiders. And it's like, if society has never had an understanding that projectors exist, then they can't support them in the ways that they need to be supported in order to guide in the first place. So it's like, me as a manifester, instead of doing this like one on many and just telling everyone like, okay, I can do anything, and if you just act like this, you can too, even though that's a lie, even though that can kill them. Instead of that, now I'm like, oh my God, you are all so unique. And you people are made to bring that uniqueness out of all of the ones that don't know that, but you can't because you're not. And so it's like, I'm, as a manifester, building a structure to help projectors be the new leader.
I think that's the perfect place to be. It sounds like a
Yeah.
perfect. I noticed that I have a bunch of manifestor friends and a bunch of even more projector friends and in my tribe, and they're all over. And I'm noticing that the manifestor friends that I'm really like in tune with, and they're all people who are like at least looking at and exploring their design. Um, they are making way for the projectors, and they are doing this intentionally. Like there's a way that they're gathering projectors around them, and they're creating, whether it's consciously or not, they're creating space for the projectors to take over. It's really interesting. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
One of them is my roommate Charles, who, he's like a 40-year-old 6'2" on the roof emotional manifester, and he just has had, since we've lived here, one after the other projector girlfriends who he has like empowered and done everything he can to like help them to step into their role, and really giving them that. And it's and then I have another friend who's a woman manifester who has all of her men have been projectors, and the same thing. And she just kind of like feeds them and gives them all this um solidity and space and allowing and then sends them on their way. It's just a really interesting thing.
It's so amazing, like with our conversation up to this point in time, I'm like, holy fuck, the projectors are the aliens. We have to make space.
That's
Like,
so
oh
funny.
my God. And only the like on the roof people are gonna fucking see it. You know, it's like we are all trying to bring in this new thing that can show us our differences. And
Yeah.
because no one has ever been able to write about it in a book or whatever, or make it real, like none of us know that that's what we're doing. And it's a very like clumsy, hard process, especially for projectors, because so many of you guys get like grinded up in the thing.
Mm.
Oh, she's not talking to us.
No,
Because
she's
it's
talking.
like the fact that these manifestors are feeling that and feeling these projectors, it's like I'm very much the same way. And it's because we can feel, it's like people are starting to recognize you guys. But it's not even that they're mentally doing it. It's that it's just happening now. Like, and we're
It's funny
feeling.
that you think of me as a projector. I'm actually a generator, but I I do have a lot of projected. Two of my three channels are projected channels. So
Shut
I've
up.
called myself a projectorator.
Oh my
Because,
gosh, you feel like a projector to me.
yeah, I know a lot of people have said that.
See, and I look at myself like a projector manifester because
Oh,
I don't have any manifesting channels.
oh, really? How
Yeah,
did that happen? How can you not have a manifesting channel and be a manifester?
right. So everything that I do has to be invited. That's why I'm like so slow coming into a group because I need to be invited.
I do too. It's so bad because in combination with the second line body, like I have to be invited. I have to be called out.
You
I
have
like
to
to be
be called.
invited. I like to be recognized, all that stuff. We're talking about how we see each other as projectors, even though we're not, and how we just kind of unraveling all the projectorness about us that we just,
Man, that
have
is so real though.
that funny.
I I can't believe that. I can't believe that this whole time I've recognized you more as a projector, like in my body, than a generator. Like you're showing me how real that is for myself. And I'm like, whew,
Doesn't everybody? I mean, I don't have any projected channels. I have only generator channels. I, of course, have projected gates. Doesn't
Yeah.
everyone want to be recognized? I mean, do you think anyone's like, oh, I don't care if you see me? I mean,
you
Yeah.
know, it's like I
Yeah.
love you
Oh, I
so
know a bunch
freaking
of
that
people
much.
kind
like
of
that.
basic.
Yeah.
Tiara, I love you so much because, like, to me, you are the perfect fucking generator. Like, the way, like, my kids are like that. Like, I'll look at them and I'm like, look at them just bouncing into everything. Like, that's all, they just bounce into each other, bounce into the wall, into the activity. And I'm like, it's so beautiful. And it's like, that's what you do. And you show me what it is to respond, you know? But it's like, it's so rare. And if you can kind of like bump into someone and just like give them what you know that you're going to give them, it's like so different when I bump into someone and I'm like, I know that I could give them what they need, but if I do, they could not hear it at all, get extremely upset, da, 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 you know. And it's like it's like you guys get to do something in that response. You have this freedom in that response that just
Yeah.
isn't there for.
Yeah, it's
And
true.
it's funny that he has it and I wasn't picking up on it. That's what's blowing my mind so much.
Yeah, and I do have it. I do have that. I definitely have the generator
What
aura.
is your generator
Aura.
channels?
4253, only one.
Oh, okay.
The only one.
But you have the generator aura.
Yeah,
It's
I have the generator
not
aura for
just
sure.
channels. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like you
No, I
have
do have
that
I have the
that
generator aura.
enveloping aura. And later
Yeah, and I
you would still have that repelling aura. It doesn't matter
right.
the
The aura
others on the
for sure.
on that
Yeah.
basic level.
Yeah, so this is a great question I want to ask you guys. if something were to come from someone uninvited, okay, would it be more painful to come from a projector or a manifester with only projected channels?
Projector.
You think so? Will you explain it to me? I want to
Projector,
understand that part.
projector
I get
invited.
more annoyed on that kind of thing with a projector because the projector's aura is going right the fuck all the way in.
Penetrates.
It
And
penetrates.
what's that feel
goes
like
in.
to you? What's it feel like? Back up?
No, it feels
Yeah.
like, what the fuck? I didn't
Yeah.
ask you. Why are you doing
It
that?
also feel
But
it also
it
feels
also it feels annoying because there's something so very wrong about it.
yeah. So
What is it?
I describe it as rapey.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it feels like somebody who is crossing your boundaries and continue like, especially if they continue to do it.
Which they do.
If they're uninvited, they sometimes do, yes. I'm lucky. I am not around projectors these days that are like that. Very seldom. And if they are, I can call them on it stuff. But I was around projectors like that, and it was horrible. There's
It's
a lot of generators that I know that don't like projectors in general.
yeah. And there's this whole thing about projectors, the catchphrase is they can pin you to the wall because they've penetrated you so deeply, then you can't get away from them.
Oh God.
Mm.
It's horrid. It's really horrible. And they don't seem to see that you're standing there going, it's like, why can't you look at my face and see that I don't want to be here? Why can't you read all the energy that my body is doing with those not self-projectors? But with the manifester,
It's just
it's a
confusing.
manifestation, so there's something essentially correct. What I find with manifestors is that I get mad at their aura.
Yeah.
Because I want everyone to be enveloping me. I want to just go from, energetic hug to energetic hug throughout my life, right?
Yeah.
And so, especially I think it's probably enhanced because I'm a 59-6 and I'm accustomed to, busting
Breaking.
someone's aura, right? So when I meet a manifester and I can't get in, I get mad. It's like, well, I don't want to do anything with you. I just want like a second of connection so I can go upon my day. And I felt that little intimate.
And I
And
think
so
what
I
I've
think
experienced
it's like I
sometimes,
want to kick the aura open.
yeah, sometimes what I experience is confusion.
Mm,
Mm.
I feel confused that there's nothing going on. Like I
yeah,
can't get,
yeah,
and because I've got that 59 one,
exactly,
like you do. And
exactly.
I mean, I'm trying to get in. I'm trying to, and the manifestors
And it
not.
seems like they're doing it on purpose. I haven't
Yeah.
met you yet in aura, Lacy, so I don't know what your aura feels like. But it seems like the manifester is doing it on purpose, like it feels mean, like
Yeah.
they're pushing me away.
That's
With Stephen, who's one of my dear friends, who I love, and we actually get along really well. I can remember this one time. Mostly, Stephen is kind of in this little come into the space where Lily and I are and go and come and go, and he just kind of adds a little quip here and there. But every once in a while, because I've stayed with them a few times, I would be working at something on my computer, and they have this like bar in their kitchen that has stools, these kind of comfy little stools so you can sit there. And I want to show something to Stephen on the computer. And he came over, and as soon as he got like that far from my aura, it was like, what the fuck, dude? Why are you pushing me out of my seat? Because you
yeah.
don't really feel the aura of the manifester until it gets really close because it's tight.
Uh-huh.
Whereas the projector aura feels aggressive because it's going out at you.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. Okay. That was so good. That tightness, it feels like it pushes you, but the aggressiveness feels like you want to like push back into it. Like you almost want to like fight it. Whereas the manifestor, you're like, why would you? Instead of like pushing back into
Oh,
it
I
or
want to
something.
fight the manifestor. I want to
You want to fight the manifestor.
I want to kick that aura open. And it's not like I want more than even a second, but I want my second.
That is so funny to me. Yeah.
No,
Yeah, I can't understand.
with the projector, I just want to get away. I don't want to fight
Okay.
them. I want to get away. And this is obviously all not self projectors.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And the manifestors, I want to poke at them. That's what I tend to do. I love to just like when a manifestor is like, you know, doing their bull in the china shop thing, whatever, you know, kind of just going, you know, I'm doing this, not saying what they're doing, just going ahead doing it. I love to be like poke the bull. I don't know. I just love to like poke at it, and they love it. Like the manifestors I know love it because
I do. I love it.
for some reason, not, you know, people get afraid of manifestors
Yeah.
on some level.
Yeah.
So
And
because
I think it must be actually can be very confusing to live in an aura that repels people
yeah,
because
sure.
you're not wanting to push people away. We just feel pushed back by it.
It
And
was awful.
I could imagine that a lot of manifestors get their feelings hurt or, you know, their sense
I
of
think for
Very
me
sensitive.
it was so confusing because my conscious nodes are 10.4, 15.4. So like 15.4 is like inadequacy in the collective and being the wallflower, and 10.4 is behavior. And so I was always looking at people's behavior and not understanding, you know, the differences. And I would watch my friends be able to do what they did. And I would kind of like be on the outside of that and not really understand. And I would watch like be able to really go in with people one on one. But like in that group thing, like I really don't have a voice a lot of the time. And so I would just watch the behavior and the differences, and there's no science that can help me understand that. There's no psychology that can help me understand that. There's nothing. And when human design came in, it's like, holy shit, you know, because you get to understand, because I can act just like anybody else, especially with my 54s. It's like, I'll fucking mimic your behavior perfectly. And that doesn't mean that people are going to treat me the same that they treat you. You know, like I'll flip myself inside out and backwards to see the difference. And it's like, it would always still be there. And that's crazy to me that I couldn't solve that until human design.
yeah. You know,
That's what people are stuck in.
yeah. The other thing that comes to my mind is that I have met some manifestor babies who I did not have this experience of. They felt cuddly. They like, as soon as I met them, they kind of reached out for me and I held them, and I didn't feel any of that. So I don't know if there's also a quality that the manifestor develops that kind of
Yeah.
creates the shield
Absolutely.
because they've been interacted with in ways that are
They
confusing.
make up reasons about it. They're like, oh, they treat me like that because I'm like this, or because I'm not this or that. So then they make up all these
Yeah.
reasons, and then they can't be themselves in social interaction because they've told themselves who they are.
And the
Yeah,
other
but
thing
there's
about, go ahead, Philippe.
that whole thing about the manifestors either being bullies or everybody's best friend, you know, the compliant, like doting, you know, oh, bless your heart. That's like a classic manifestor thing when like Southern people say that. Well, like, oh, I love you. You're so precious. Da, 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 you know, just being so. And I've met so many, in particular, manifestor women, especially little manifestor women, who are just the most like gracious people you can possibly imagine, but you can feel
They've
the
changed their
rage underneath
behavior.
it.
That's right. They've changed their behavior to compensate for their aura, and it
Yeah,
doesn't work.
just their little kid. My
And it
sister was
doesn't
that.
work actually. It just becomes even
It's awful.
becomes incongruent. And then they're not,
Horrible.
and someone who has that incongruency, anyone, for me anyway, I don't trust them.
Right, you
My
can't because they don't trust
my
their
li-
self.
And the
my
other
little sister
that
was a
that's interesting,
manifestor.
huh?
I was gonna say my little sister was a manifestor. She was a powerhouse, 4'11", just like took no prisoner. She was just like, everybody. But she could charm. That's the thing. Also, they become the most charming. They can become incredibly charming, but you don't
Yeah.
trust it. But you want to trust it because you want in on that manifest for good
Wow.
stuff. But you just, so people are so attracted, repelled, attracted, repelled, attracted, repelled. And
Mm,
it's this constant thing of that way of manifestors. They have this incredible ability, and then it gets all torqued
Yeah. Well,
because
and
everybody hates them and is jealous of them.
yeah,
their
That whole thing.
strategy is not natural. And I think
right.
that could be
I love
something
that.
that could be talked about some more, because if I'm just being the me that I am, there is nothing more natural than to wait to respond. Right? If a projector is really who they are, they will naturally wait till they're recognized and have an invitation. And even a reflector, they will just naturally wait that moon cycle to become clear, and all of that. But the projector strategy is made up just so they can get along with people. And so
Manifestor.
I mean, a manifester, what would a manifester strategy be if they could just be themselves? They would just
Right. Be
well,
allowed.
they would probably go out and kill people to take their land, which is what our whole history is based on.
See, and it's like
I
if
don't mean
that's
I don't
true.
mean that. I actually mean that. It's like they would just go get what they wanted. But
Well, it's like
then they don't get along. I'm coming over here to plug my computer in.
I just talked to somebody about this in terms of the 4521. It's like, okay, if most kings and queens were manifestors and the healthy manifestation of 4521 is right education for now and feeding the bellies. It's like most kings throughout history didn't act that way. They were more concerned. They were turned around looking at their buddies, doing back end deals, having sex with every woman they could find, exploiting their people. And they were not concerned about educating children and filling bellies, And it's like we have to get to the point where we care about that.
Well, the Celtic mythology, it's interesting that you're into mythology, because the one that I relate to the most is the Celtic mythologies. And in the Celtic mythology, the role of the king is to care for the land. And the land is the people and everything else. And the role of the queen is to make sure the king does. And
Yeah.
that seems like what the 4521 would be.
It's like you can't find very many places where it was able to look like that because, first of all, the queen was never allowed to speak against the king. It's like all of these
Well,
rules
in olden
and
times,
gender and
in the older Celtic times, they could. That was the whole point of them.
like far, far back.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and it's interesting with the bases too, because that happens at some point in time. Like my husband and I were just talking about it. We were looking at like righteousness versus like wisdom and not knowing. And I was like, okay, so maybe we could look at righteousness as like all the father, like all the bond. The bond has to come in and create the hierarchy and do the organizing and all the stuff. And then it's like maybe the wisdom and not knowing is like the mother. And that would be more like the way or like the I Ching versus like putting down the laws and rules. And
Well,
it's like
the base three, the cooperation of the female circle versus the builders becoming the lawgivers.
yeah, it's like once the builders become the lawgivers and everybody starts believing in that more than the reality that the mothers had everybody living in. It's like everybody becomes blind, and that's why it results in a boom, because no one can see what's happening in order to correct what's happened, because the rules and all the words and shit just take their mind.
It's so interesting because what comes right after, it seems so like we can look at that idea of perfect cooperation and the circle of women and all of that, but that wasn't the end.
Right, because you have to bring in the other side.
We have to bring in the other side, or we just get stuck. And so it's weird because I haven't quite grasped this yet, but I'm getting there. It's the fourth base that's mutational because it gets us out of that closed circle that would never have opened.
Yeah.
But with weird,
sitting in the circle with all the power, there is nothing in that psyche that would say, oh, well, we'll bring the men in and see what they say. They never did. The
so
men
what,
had to
so why do,
decide.
but why is lawmaking the mutate? How is that relationship?
That's what I don't understand yet.
Okay, so ready? It's like
Opposite.
this.
Tell me.
It's like the only way that we get from the point of these tight tribal mother circles, right? Like maybe life works much better like that, in a standstill point in time.
In a standstill point in time.
But if the point of being here is to go from sperm meeting egg to delivered child, like if the point is what we're becoming, then we have to break out a circle. We have to bring in rules that allow outsiders to come in so the new genetic material can come in. So now you've got like mixed relationships, and that's how it happens, because you have to bring in new material to keep those rules and shit going, and the people have to move. And so then you get all this mixing happening, and that's what brings the new body.
That's what brings the new body.
The neutrinos point towards that new body. And if the last people aren't embodied, they die to the flood. That's the way I see it.
And the thing is that the institutions that the four builds, one of them are schools, because the circle will only teach what it has known in the past, but the schools can teach new things because it will bring in new genetic material, because it doesn't have to hold to this tight thing that only cooperates. It can actually have dissension.
Yeah.
Well, Professor so-and-so thinks this and Professor so-and-so thinks that.
Right.
What do you guys think?
Right.
That's
the collective, everything allowed. Everything allowed and collective.
So the circle is the tribe.
The circle would be the tribe.
That is why that's breaking.
And the tribe will only keep unto itself, and it won't.
Now, ready for this? This is cool too, because with the way that this happened to me and being an ego manifester, base 4 being the heart was always confusing to me. And I finally feel like I'm getting it through the Egyptian stuff, because it's like Lilith has to go to the end of time to like embody the anti-neutrino. Once she embodies everything, she becomes the heart. And this is what's so crazy about my experience. It's like I had the will to live my foundation. And then just like that, my foundation was gone. And if my foundation was gone, I couldn't put my will towards a foundation. Like, it's like my spirit was just taken from me or something. And it's like, if you think of the neutrino as spirit and the thing that's changing, and it's like it turned me off and made me watch. And I built my new foundation, and now I'm going to be able to live from that new foundation. But it's like, it's interesting how they call the neutrino the progress, and I see it as the heart center. And there's something about the heart and how it shuts off, and you cannot work until it like turns back on,
Yeah.
You can't work until it turns back on. And in that time, I learned a new foundation.
I think that you might be a base 2, not 1.
See, isn't that funny?
That's my new hypothesis, because you use actually the word build a lot. And it's not that you're going into, like, I think of me bringing my book to you, you built it into a book. I brought a new way of looking at something and you built it into a book.
And
Chaitanya
you're building this whole website
brought
with
to
all the
you and you
people.
built it into a website. Sorry, Philippe, what?
He said the same thing that you said.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The same thing. So which quarter are you in that world?
The two is what? Civilization? I can't remember what the two is. What quarter is the two in? What quarter is the one in?
Yeah, civilization
One
for
is
the two.
mutation, so the two is
You is civilization. So that could also be it, because
the
that's the
beginning
same
of
with me. Because I'm a one base, so I'm bringing the new, but I also have to bring it into form because I'm in the dual, the civilization thing. So could also be that.
I'm gonna keep looking.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, and it's cool because the way I see it, it's like base one being the thing that sees, and then base two comes out and becomes two things. And one goes and integrates base four. The other one stayed. And I feel like base one like wrapped around it. And that is the photon. And it's like that doesn't make any sense, but what does make sense to me is that base one gets to watch the other bases. Or maybe it specifically gets to watch base two or half of base two, but it's watching something. And so it's like me thinking of myself in base one, I could make that make sense because the way that I watch life, and if I'm watching the building specifically,
I have seen that, but where are you getting that base one watches life? Where does that come from?
I look at base one as the observer. And I know that Ra looks at the
Going out
personality
and
as the observer.
discovering.
But it's like base one, it's like I can watch my mind. And if my mind is a neutrino going through my personality crystal, then technically, like, I'm behind that. It's like I see base one as the observer. I see the personality crystal as your frequency of all time. And if you can pull all of your time together, you can be the passenger. Something like that.
So when we
So
did
the
that,
observer brings the new.
inner guided journey, did you relate to being a one? Did you relate to being a two, a three, a four, a five?
I was literally sitting there listening to it, and it's like that's exactly what the inside of me was trying to do. Because it's like I relate to both so heavily, and especially the base two integrating the base four. Like I feel like I was Tefnut and I became Matt. And that's like the way that I see what happened to me. But at the same time, it's like if I were base one and I was watching everyone and I was watching all the bases, like what's to say that some type of like base five can't happen from that, you know? It's like there's something there about being able to see them all.
It seems like the five would be seeing them all.
See, that's my confusion because I'm like, if the personality is the observer, then nothing has been observed until this new thing. But if base one is the observer, then it was all observed.
Yeah, but isn't it the five that's connected to the personality crystal? So it would be the five that's connected to the observer, to the passenger.
I think the six is the observer and it's not on the wheel.
Yeah, I know.
Not in the base. So the six is really the observer. Because the five is the observed. It's the projected on, right? So the archetype is being observed. I don't think it's observing. And the one, I don't think the one is observing either because the one is in it. The one is the one that's the most
one's just out there looking for new
self-conscious.
territory.
doing the new thing, doing the new
It's
thing.
the monopole. Where am I going? Where am I going? Where am I
So
going?
there's
Where am
this,
I going?
yeah, and there's the six. The six is in the one.
The six
Because
is
it's all,
looking at the
six
one.
is always
Six is
looking at the
looking at the
one.
new one. Where's the one going next?
Mm.
But the six is not in the
No,
form,
it's not a base.
outside the form. It's the alien.
It's the alien that you can touch.
Okay, so think about this. This is funny because the way that I received the bases, like the most practical way I received it was seeing like literally a sperm coming into an egg and all this stuff, okay? So it's like base one, the sperm, okay? But it's the nucleus inside the head of the sperm. And base two would be the electron tail that waves like this and moves the sperm. Okay. So base two is literally moving the monopole. And then it's like the sperm gets to the egg. She lets him inside. This is base two
Gets to the
sacrificing itself.
circle. Gets to the circle, the egg.
So the sperm goes in. She chooses him. It's not because he was the fastest. It's because he's the right material. And so she lets him in specifically. And to make sure that no one gets in, he leaves his body. His body stays behind and it fuses the egg shut so that the nucleus can continue moving towards the nucleus in the egg. And so it's like that sacrifice like piece that stayed behind. I feel like it's like the observer on the outside. Like it's like the strangest thing, but it's like that nucleus goes to the new nucleus, they come together, and then immediately they split and they divide. And they come back and they split. And it's like all this splitting and dividing. It's not,
And they split and divide and then they build.
yeah. And then they split and divide from what they've built. You know, it's like this process of you get to this thing and then it breaks into two or something. And that's like the new body coming or something. I don't know.
Well, and apparently we are a fetus, all of us together.
Yeah.
We are the fetus that has not yet been born.
Yeah, I feel like we're
In,
in like day
Program,
8 of
whole
conception.
thing we call life.
like in the womb.
Yeah, we are the fetus in the womb that has not yet been born.
I experientially feel that that's true for myself. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It feels like we're in a state of development.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it's like if we could look at it like that, like we started as this, but we're trying to become something. You know, it's like that is the point. And that's why it's so painful because the becoming something inherently means that what you were an hour ago, you're different now and we blame ourselves for that change.
Yeah.
And we also try.
I wonder if we humans are the body, like the design crystal and the monopole make the body. And then there's that 3 months where it just gets bigger and the personality crystal maybe is the raves. And then when we get born, maybe it'll be the aerons. I don't know, I just made that up. I don't know if that has any validity at all, but that was just where my thoughts went.
But seriously, my mind goes places like that, you know, because as I start to see these things relate to each other, like I kind of just let them do it and watch over time.
Yeah, because the functionality and the mechanics are the functionality and the mechanics.
Exactly. And it's like if everything has always been trying to describe this, if psychology is our best stab at trying to describe this, that's very interesting to me and very sad, very human, very, it's about the change.
Well, we also come back to where we started somewhere in the early part of the conversation about labels.
Yeah.
And how can we, we're trying to be correct with our labeling, but eventually, like, what is that about? Like, why are we, that thing that you're talking about that we have to label ourselves in order to like try to understand who we are. But
The
it's the
power of
conundrum of it's the conundrum of human design is that we can get so, you know, we're all loving this for whatever reason in our first baseness or something, like going in and teasing it apart, and you know, it's super fun. And I'm definitely like to find labels for
Yeah.
myself. I enjoy it, makes me feel safe somehow.
Mm.
And I know also that just because of my experience in my own psyche with like entheogenics and different like hallucinogenics and things like that, that I have a huge fear of splitting apart, of fragmenting, of like dissolving. And, you know, it's just terrifying to me. It's the one terror. And it's not about, like disappearing and not existing, because as a totally radically open G center, I don't exist anyway as a thing. But somehow the fragmenting into the many is just very terrifying. So I really, really, I don't know if you guys feel this, but it just feels really, it's always felt really good for me to find labels. That
I
being
I
said,
actually, I mean, you know, I have that whole liberation through limitation thing where when I can see who I am, I can just quit trying to be who I'm not.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
the next the next process for me becomes, how do I structure my languaging so that I can just get other people to stop wanting to be what I'm not, because I
yeah,
am.
yeah. I watched this documentary last night that Max turned me on to called Persona. And it's a documentary about Myers-Briggs,
Oh,
about
cool.
the whole Myers-Briggs thing and where it came from. And it was just this woman and her daughter created it.
Really?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Out of the Jungian thing. But she just like, this woman just created this. And then in the thing, they're exploring, different people are talking about how great it has been for them to be like, know that they're not alone. They're just, you know, they're just who they are, and they really accept themselves for who they are. And I'm not such a weirdo. And oh, that's why I can't relate to this person that well in this way, and all these things. And then the documentarian goes, but there's a dark side, which is that all these companies, basically corporations, use the Myers-Briggs as a way of discriminating against people and filtering out people that they don't feel like are right for their company based on their how they test.
Right.
I'm like,
Well, they probably don't want the INFPs like me, and they're right.
well, they could be, but there's this one guy who takes the test repeatedly over, and he can never get a job, and he eventually commits suicide. And he's actually in his father and he are in the story because they're trying to
Yeah, but
understand.
what jobs
Oh,
are he going for that he's so wrong for?
just like, well, they're not even jobs that there's wrong for, and they just, because they're jobs he's had before and enjoyed, like working in a grocery store. Like they're not big, huge things.
Oh, they're not
Yeah.
corporate. When you said companies, I thought
Well,
corporate.
I mean corporations like grocery store, like a supermarket, they use those things. So they use it to filter out these people. But he was like, why don't he started to feel this, his open ego was just like, am I not worth it? Is there something wrong with me? Am I broken? And his father's trying to help me. He goes to a psychologist and all this stuff. And they start to realize that these tests are skewed toward certain things, and they're not really accurate, a lot of
Right.
them. So, and then they start to, then this other guy starts, this Asian man is talking about how they're racistly skewed. And then it turns out that the woman who created them was actually kind of a eugenicist. She was like a racist. So they start uncovering all these things, and it's like, oh my God. You know,
Wow.
and the different, and they never come to any like conclusion, but some people are really trying to take it down as
So,
a way
so
of,
I'm curious about something, because what goes on in my mind, like at first it was like, oh la la, Myers-Briggs. When you started talking about all of that, it was very much power view, and all that happened in my mind was, that has nothing to do with me. Why is he talking
See, I loved it. I'm Power View too. And it's
right.
like,
this is a stupid conversation. Let's go back to human design. It has nothing to do with me. But you guys are looking at the power of what this thing can do, and I don't
Yeah.
any
But
crap.
well, and it's like
well,
I'm gonna take it into human design too, because I'm
exactly.
like,
That's why I wanted to. Yeah.
Yeah.
you started with the labeling, and I feel like that's so mystical. It's like the first job that base one gave to base two was walk around and put labels on all the things.
Right.
Where did the fucking labels come from?
Yeah.
God didn't tell them to him. They
No,
came out of him. You know, they
that's
came out of the
exactly it.
material. And this is what's so amazing. It's like, this is how I feel. It's like a scientist will stand in front of you and know and know and know and know and know and know. And then you get to the end of their career and they have gotten to the place of not knowing with whatever they're studying. And then they're like, I don't know. I just don't know. And if you study anything deep enough, you realize you don't know, and all this stuff. And it's like, we are here to boil in. It's like we started seeing the atom in whatever year, and then maybe we've gotten glimpses of the electron, but it's like we haven't even been able to see them in order to like label them properly and to understand our foundation. And it's like we are getting to do that everywhere. So it's like Myers-Briggs was like the beginning of like people being like, oh, like maybe I could be different. Like but it comes with consequences, because if you're not putting correct labels on things, it affects the whole program. And so it's like, that's why I'm so obsessed with, I bring everything to human design labels, because I'm like, these don't carry all the connotations, ideas, it's mechanical. And when we
Morality.
Yeah.
can see everything from a mechanical
Morality.
view,
Yeah.
then people don't get hurt. Like if we are actually labeling what you are, you won't be hurt. But if we are labeling you based on what you're not, you're going to get hurt. And experience is going to try to show you what you are. And that's very fucking painful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very true. Yeah. So that's what I was getting to basically, was that um it's interesting like how humans with their need to label, and then our need to label ourselves and understand who we are, especially open G's to the extreme, um, can get even with human design. I have seen people and heard about many people who do use human design in a way to, maybe not intentionally, but to really limit people,
Yes.
because
And
it becomes a
validate.
limitation like that in a different way than what you describe as limitation. But yeah, to invalidate or to like, yeah, people, I mean, it's just kind of horrible. I mean, I hear about these people, and you see it like on the Facebook things, which is why we don't hang out there so much anymore. But
This
how
is
people
huge
can
for
really
me,
get, yeah,
because I think that I'm so safe in the world of human design because I am the passenger. And what I am as the passenger can't understand matter. I can see it. I can label it. I can't know it. I can't know it. I continue to go deeper into it. I continue to go deeper out of it. And I can't fucking know it? And so it's like, that's when the mind is like, oh, fuck, I can't know. And then you get to watch. It's like, then you get to see, and you can label, you can take off label, you can put on, because you're just watching. And it's like, it's so safe and different than using human design to invalidate someone or fill their head with ideas, because someone can sit in front of me and I can be like, oh, this is your not self ego and your gate, whatever the fuck. And I don't, am I right? Am I wrong? Do they believe me? Because if the point is for them to be their own authority, that's the point, not them believing what I say or me being right. And so it's like, it's so
well,
deep. And I feel like we're just starting to see that.
yeah. And as Tiara has discovered so well, a lot of people don't have the right information to begin with. So they're going to get all the wrong labels and all the wrong data that they're taking on, and you can just like say, well, that's perfect too, and depending on how
Your
you
place and your
deal with that.
experience.
I
Yeah.
think that's
But
perfect.
you
I,
what?
I think what's perfect is for people to look and see what is alongside of whatever information they've been giving.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I enjoy working with you so much, is because it's really
Thank you. Yeah,
experimental. It's the
Yes.
experiment. It's like we
it
get
is
to
an
really
experiment
tease
and an
apart things.
experience. Yeah. Have the
I mean,
experiment. I mean, have the experience and then look at it while it's going
yeah,
on.
I value this time that we have together so much, because we get to really, I don't have that many people that I talk to where you're really, really about the experiment, when we're really digging into all the things and experimenting and talking about our experiment. And yeah, it's so great.
And
Oh my God. The
watching them
freedom,
develop.
the
Thank you.
freedom that you can even be like, could your time be wrong? And for all of us to be like, could it be? There are groups that would be like burning you at the stake in a second, but it's like the point is what we're doing, not the burning at the stake in a second.
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
I think for me, it also goes to just the way I naturally learn. Like I go to the bottom of it. What is a 1? What is a 2? What is a 3?
Yeah.
So if I think you are this and you are not any of the 2 things, if I'm told you're a hope and I look at all the 2 and you're not exhibiting any of that, and not just because you're in transference to the 5, because it's a whole spectrum, then I'm like, this is not what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing the keynotes here. I'm not
Yeah.
seeing the quality of what a 2-ness is, or a 1-ness, or a 3-ness, or whatever that is. And
Like the fact that you even
that's what I wish people would be doing.
the fact that you even have the care to explore one enough to say the oneness, the two-ness, the three-ness, it's
I
like
know.
that's what it is right there.
So great. Yeah.
Well,
So
and it was very interesting because we had that situation with the person who came into this class, and it without even meaning to started taking over, their
Right.
mechanics.
Yeah.
We're doing that. And I watched myself go, whoa. And my keynote, my 31, I have the 31 twice, and it's I lead, right? I heard myself say, I lead this group.
Yeah.
I saw the keynote come out of me, but what was even deeper for me and actually really profound is that I identified within me this, I don't know if I have the words for it. It was this profound integrity of being to be true to human design. It's like,
Yeah.
I was not here to give way to something when this is what I'm leading. This is what I've been given, and I have to be true to human design. It's not like Lacy, I'm looking at you and going, forgive me, because it's not. Wow, Lacy, I see her strategizing. And if she was right mind, right brain, I don't think she would be doing this the way she does this. I'm actually not doing that because I care about you. I'm doing it because I care about mechanics.
Yes, and
If the
that's
mechanics are
great.
not congruent, then something is off. Because in the
Like
15,
all you just
I've not
said,
seen someone with a receptive mind be strategic. I just don't see it.
to me, you just said, I care about life. Because when you say I care about the mechanics, you're saying I care about me, I care about you, I care about everything.
Yeah. I mean, it's the only thing I've ever, and one of the things that I have found profound listening to Ra in the whole lunar and planetary color business, one of the things he talks about is Mars as the mutative force. And he doesn't say the words, but how I see it is, there's Mars, who we think of as the warrior, charging forth to bring us to ourselves, to mutate us so that we can become who we are. And wherever you have that Mars, especially in the personality, is what has continually brought you to the opportunity to mutate into yourself. And I have Mars in my personality in the 63, the gate of doubt. And I can look back and see that, you know, I've been into all the stuff, the Myers-Briggs and the Jungian psychology and the astrology and the, not I Ching, that was always too metaphorical for me, but, you know, mythology and, you know, all this stuff. And I like all of it. It's groovy, it's yummy. But there came a point where my gate of doubt said, no, that's not enough. That does not have the answer. That does not give me the answer that I am looking for, that can tell me what life is about.
That's right.
So far in my 15-year experience, experiment of human design, it is giving me that. So I can see how Mars kept mutating me as I would have just been into the astrology or been into mythology or visualizations or, you know, whatever, all the stuff. Nope. I doubt this one. I doubt this one. I doubt this one.
And it's so interesting because we come to the same place in a way, Tiara. Both of us are around the same amount of time in the experiment.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that I don't doubt any of them. I include all of them, but we still at the same place. Like,
what is your
I
personality Mars? What was your mutative force?
what is my personality Mars?
Yeah, it's so funny. Mine's 25.1. And I feel like I'm like this. The way I look at it is that everyone who ever made anything was trying to communicate the 64. It's like they all were trying to explain life. And they did it through religion, they did it through science, they did it through all kinds of things.
Right. So what is the 25? Is that really, and what is the 25?
That's 25.1. It's the gate of innocence. It's half the shaman channel, and it's that 2551. And it selflessness, I have it in detriment. So it's about like me telling people about whatever I'm being selfless in.
Oh, that's interesting.
Can you see how that brought you to, I call it brought me to human design, because that's the most empowering and mutative thing that I've ever found.
Yeah, it's like, so the thing that shattered my mind, and this was like me mastering the material plane in my mind's point of view. It's like I almost lost my baby when he was like in my belly, and I was going to have an abortion. So I'm very sick. I hadn't ate, drank. I find a solution. It saved his life and mine, and I didn't have to terminate. So I carried the pregnancy out full term, and I shared the thing that saved me with other women who had this condition. So I was like, look, you know, I used this and it changed everything. And I helped so many people. You know, I built this like massive team, and all I was doing was sharing my selflessness. This helped me, use it to help you, right? And it's like, now I get to do that. I'm finally at the point where I get to do that with human design.
Wow.
Interesting. Yours is Philippe 42.5. Self-actualization. That's adorable.
Amazing.
Ours was demanding self-actualization of you.
That's for fucking sure.
That's
Never,
for fucking sure.
still hasn't, yeah, it's going to just keep going. But yeah.
Yeah.
That's all
going.
Yeah, it's all about. I'm just obsessed with actualizing myself.
Yes. Well, and seriously, it's
in
like,
every way. Like I have to do it in every way, in my mind, in my body, in my action, in my work, in my like everything that I do is about that. And then, yeah, it's so interesting. Huh.
that's
Self.
amazing. And that's half of your generator channel. So that's literally like response, you know, like that's your like.
That's right.
And it's
That
also
generator channel, it's so interesting to me because it delivers like ends and beginnings. Like it's like, but for you to have both, you're not delivering them. You're just like living out your own through your response.
Well, he
Is that
delivers.
right? You
It's also
deliver them to others?
he has helped me come to completion on things.
Amazing.
I do it all the time.
In
I've
fact,
been,
you could, if you chose to inform him somehow, you could inform him if you want some help to get to the completion of this website.
yeah, definitely.
It's a little
Yeah.
magic thing he does.
Yeah. Well, it's like I've talked to somebody else who just has 42 and they talked about delivering that ending. And I felt I recognized it and I was like, hey, I think that you're talking about something that's like mechanical in you. And it's not your fault. It's like you're not the reason that things stop, like you're helping them come to a close. And so it's like to have the whole channel, like, can you deliver the whole experience from the beginning? Like, what's it look like for you?
Yeah, so it's also in my incarnation cross.
That
Oh
turned
my
me on when you said
gosh.
that. Can you deliver the whole experience? I'm
I
like,
know, I like that. I like
got
it.
it.
I'm like, fuck yeah. No, that's my whole,
Yeah,
so
that's his own
my
thing.
magic in this life is development.
Yeah.
So I help people begin things and move through the process to the end. And that has been like I've been with a lot of people as they die. I've had the things that turn me on are things that I get to start and then bring to a fruition.
Yeah.
That's why I always like theater, because you just put on a show and I get to be at the beginning, middle, and end, and it's satisfying.
Well, and wow, that's you delivering a beginning, middle, and end to that whole audience.
Yeah. Each time and through the process of like a run or whatever. Yeah.
This is
So
huge for me.
storytelling.
That 54.4 in my Uranus, the beginning and the end, the alpha and the omega, da 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 da. It's so interesting for me, this beginning and end, because I look at it and I just see a continuation.
Yeah.
But what I know about myself is that I'm here to be like a marker of the end, So there really is a beginning and end. It's not just a continuation. And that's what we've talked about this whole time. And it's like you are helping me get clarity on that. Like we're all getting clarity on that together, the beginning, middles, and ends of the cycles and the rounds, so that we can, help people continue to move forward in
The other,
ourselves.
yeah, the other channel in my cross is at 3254.
Shut up. Wow.
I
So your
have
cross is
two.
2 channels?
Yeah, it's very rare.
It's
Yeah.
the cross that all of the suns and earths are always activated because it's all them together.
What cross is that?
Cross of cycles.
What?
And
Yeah.
the three of us, Lacy is a sphinx who's the beginning of everything. You're the
Ah.
cycles, and I'm the four ways that's the end of everything.
Oh, that's right. Oh, that's crazy. Whoa. All
They
right.
felt really mystical to me. Like this was like
Yeah.
life brought us three together today to exchange this information.
Oh, yeah. It felt like we were doing some weird, yeah,
Yeah,
We
through.
were.
and it's interesting because this past week I've been looking at things in these new ways. Like, well, what if the six is this, and what if the quarters, and what if and then I got to bring them to you
Yeah.
two, and expand on
That's
that.
well, and seriously, like if this website goes the way I want it to, I would love for you guys to like come and like share yourselves on it, Like I would love
Hmm.
that because people
Hmm.
need to see this. They need to see you, they need to see me, and I think that that's where we're going, and that's why we're getting clear on what's happening now, so that when we're sitting in front of them and talking about it, like we have some kind of foundation of this is where we're at maybe, and we're
Hmm.
looking at this and we're looking at that, and it's like we're being prepared for what we're going to deliver.
Yeah.
I think it
Hmm.
would. I think
I'm
it would.
sorry to be
Mhm.
so deep.
No, that's my generator is like, mhm.
Yeah.
I think it would be. I'm wondering how we could talk about this way of being in the experiment that would actually kind of spark people.
Yeah, how can we do it effectively? That's what I need.
Yeah, like how can we effectively, because I can talk about it, but it's just natural for me. It's not something I learned to do. I do doubt everything, so I have to see it. You know, it's my gate of doubt leads that charge. So I'm not going to go, oh, I'm a 3-5. Okay, I'm a 3-5. Like, well, what is a 3-5? And am I that? Oh, I certainly as fuck am, you know, is Lacy this, is Philippe that. So, but is there a way that we could,
Will you guys get in this challenge with me? Like to just kind of sit on this and just think about like how could we effectively, I almost see it as like human design is ready for like a new structure, an experiential structure where we have markers that can show people that they're in the experiment or ways of looking at it that can show something, but it's like it's trying to come into being and it's like the fucking bane of my existence.
So
that sounds buildy also. Let's build markers.
my first question about that is, do you know who your audience is? Is there like a feeling about, are you talking to people who are experienced in human
I would
design?
like
Are you
to,
talking about beginners?
I would
You know,
like to talk to some beginners. I mean, this is the one thing I would like to do with beginners is say, just as you start, do this.
Right.
Don't
That's what I do.
take this stuff for granted, but this is how you watch your process.
yeah.
So it's interesting. I love this question for me, and this is going to help me because it's like when I knew that this is what I had to do, it was about the shift. And the way I saw it was that people were going to need this because their minds were going to start acting differently and they weren't going to be able to live like that. And they were going to have to find some way to make decisions so that they could be their own leader because nobody was going to be able to lead them. And so like for me, the website is like that. It's a very universal thing that's like, hey, take off your conditioning, religion, trauma by doing this. But it's like at the same time, like so many people involved in this are very concerned with the education side, and I am too. So it's like we have to preserve this foundation and maybe even lay down a little bit of new experiential stuff while also keeping that like other universal side. And it's like for me, the fun part is doing this with you, like doing the advanced stuff, being in my experiment where I am. And so like that has to remain, you know, like because if I'm going to share what I see, it's going to be me sharing what I see in my experiment. So it's like it's confusing and weird and I don't like it's been so hard. Like the way Tira just said that, like we need to like bring this, like what is this? It's like it's been like that the whole time and that pisses me off.
I think,
Bringing the new is hard.
and Philippe would be the one of us that can help that. What I'm looking at right this minute is different people will have different facility.
Right.
And, you know, someone who's got a lot of abstract collective channels really has the ability to look back, right? Oh, let me look back. And like, this is one of the first things I did in my experiment. Like immediately, I looked back at my life and I said, when have I waited to respond? And when have I tried to make things happen? And I went all the way back and came forward and what I saw very, 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 very clearly, every time I waited, it worked. Every single time I tried to make something happen, it didn't. So that part of the experiment was like, well, that makes sense to keep doing that. But people who don't have that abstract don't necessarily look back.
Right.
So if they're logical collective, then they have to be more experimenting. Okay, we're just going to start now. Every time your mind grabs you and makes you try and make something happen in the future, see how that works for you. And every time you don't let your mind convince you to do that, see how that works for you.
Is my channel
both of that's collective right there.
Is my channel collective? Is it abstract?
No, you're abstract. The cycles is abstract.
Right.
So it's looking back one.
Yeah, for sure.
In general, anything coming out of the solar plexus is abstract, and anything coming out of the spleen is logical. And then there's the two sides going up.
Right.
So what would mutative people do, Lacy? You know, because it's the
Right.
collective that looks forward and looks back.
Yeah,
What
it's
is,
like for me, and it's like everybody looks at me like, where am I gonna fit in? But life will like show me. And it's like when I think about where I would fit in, that would be that individual place. And it would just be me showing up with like people I love and just talking like we do, you know, and I'm just sharing my experiment, and maybe people like submit questions, or maybe one week we're like, okay, we're gonna just think about the heart center this time
no,
because that's what I
What
want
I'm
to do.
asking though, what I'm informing you that I would like to know about is, how do you watch the progress of your experiment? How do you, as a mutative being, because
I
not
think
forward.
so all I do is share what I see. I share what I see and everything happens.
So you share what you see is what you watch the impact?
Well, it's like I can see what my mind thinks. I can see what my body feels. I can see what's happening out there. And so whatever I'm focused on, if my heart is like, share it, then I just fucking share it. And then they're like, oh, they share something, and then all of a sudden I'm doing something, and all of a sudden something's happening. And they might not even understand what I shared.
Okay, so what I understand about individuality, which you seem to be speaking to, is that the only way they can be a part of what's going on is to be able to structure themselves in a way that they can share to the collective. Otherwise, the collective just won't understand the individuality. But what does this
Yeah.
have to do with you watching your experiment to see, well, am I a 1-3? Am I a manifester? What does it mean to have projected channels as a manifester? What is the process that you go through that instead of going, oh, I'm this, so da, 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 but instead goes, well, says I'm a manifester. How do I see myself as a manifester?
So this is what it looks like. And you guys have helped me get clear on this with my, like you asked me about having a reflector body, and it helped me kind of slow down and just like bring my frame out. And it's like something will be introduced to me, and it doesn't matter if my heart hates it or love it then. But I recognize that my heart feels something about it, and my mind doesn't have to know what it feels. And then it's like later, if it was real, somebody else will bring it up. And then my heart gets another chance to do something, and I watch that too. And it's like that process will either take me to like denying that thing, getting out of that project, saying no to that person, or it will take me to building that thing, completing that project, doing something else, you know, and it's like that process of me just watching my heart respond, it just makes my decisions in every single moment. And while I'm doing that, I'm watching it all, and I'm like learning more. I'm collecting more coins about what I see, because like if I've seen something 5 times, it's realer than if I've seen it once.
So you watch your authority.
Yes. So I don't make any decisions, right? The material, like what's the labeler? It's not the mind, it's not the observer, it's the body. Like the body, like the material is what brings the mutation. So like if I'm capable of seeing differently than someone that was born 2000 years ago, the mutations are happening like in us, and we bring them out. Whether that's through the neutrinos coming in and giving it to us, but that's what the informing is, because the neutrino stream is my mind and feelings and that whole thing. And if I watch it and I share it, I inform about what I see, then everything begins and starts and goes. But it's not like I'm the one with the ideas or anything. It's like I've got this whole like eternal consciousness.
So this is fascinating, because I, as a generator, am completely focused on myself. What has worked for me? What didn't work for me? What happens if I do this? What happens if I do that? And I tried to get you to do that, but you wouldn't do that. You kept looking at the impact that your authority has on others. And that's
Yeah.
how you're noticing your process. So right there, we have a difference between empowering someone as a manifester versus empowering someone as a generator.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people see their authority. Well, and according to how human design has been written, I shouldn't be able to be aware of my heart, but it does all kinds of things. And like your friend says the same thing about hers.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like I am aware of it. It doesn't speak, but like it has resonance.
Well, yeah, because I have two friends who have heart center authority, and it's adorable because one of them, like you, talks about the heart, and the other one talks about the will. When my will's behind it, I just go forward. When
Exactly. If the will's not
I
there, it's a
move into
no.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't, and it's like that makes it so simple. Like for me as a 2551, I'm blessed and cursed to have that channel because a lot of people with an ego have the I to rely on, but every experience that I have shows me that it's not me. So I'm an ego manifester, but I continuously have to see that it's not me. Like I never get to be stronger in the I necessarily. So like what I am as the observer, I watch my defined, like my heart center, and it decides. I don't have to do anything.
Yeah. Wow, that's an interesting thing to surrender to the will.
Yeah. Like
The
I'm just
will
like,
that is.
I
That,
can't. I don't want to. I don't know why. I'm sorry.
right. Not just not doing it or doing it.
I won't.
Or
Yeah, sorry.
That's interesting.
sorry, not sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very
Well,
much.
and
Yeah.
it's like maybe that's my thing where I'm like, kill me. Because it's like when I get to that won't part, it's like there's nothing like you can just let me not or kill me because I won't.
Yeah.
That's so true. And the fake, I've ego defined people around me all the time. I've told this to Tiara. I just am a magnet to like and ego manifestors and ego projectors, some of them emotionally defined as well. But I'm like, oh my God, what it must be like. And I think that I actually surround myself with you all because I get to feel what it's like because I amplify it when I'm around you. So as long as I have ego people around me, I feel like, oh, I have a defined ego today. I get to feel what that's like. And it's so great. It feels so good. It's so high. But it's fucked up for me because then I'm not around you and
It's awful. Well, it's like my husband.
shit out
Oh
of
my
luck.
God. Well, it's like I have the 59.5 too. It's like my husband. He has the 59.5 and his unconscious son. And it's like he's like, people just get addicted to you. And I'm like, it's not me. It's not me. It's the monopole. Like I look at it as my monopole, but it's like it can also be the heart center. And that's really what broke my mind. Because as an ego manifester, I sat in front of people and told them, just be like me. You'll get my results.
Ah, yeah. Tony
That's
Robbins.
yeah, like that broke my heart when I realized I was 3.5 years into my experiment doing that. And then my
Wow.
mind shattered and I was like, that's why they can't. I was like, that's
Right.
why they can't. There's the difference. I found
Cannot.
it finally.
I heard and I haven't seen it that somebody told me that Tony Robbins has every gate in the ego defined. So when you go into his things, all the people are
That
there
makes
going,
so much
oh yes, I can do it. I can do it. I can
Promise,
do
I
it.
promise, I promise.
Yeah. And apparently his
Tragic.
wife,
It's just so tragic.
but
it's
apparently his
tragic.
his wife got into human design
Oh,
and
cool.
he told this is a couple years ago, I guess, told him about this, and he was like, oh, and it kind of started having this realization. So he changed his teaching.
Understood the mechanics now of why people can't just do what he can do.
Yeah,
I guarantee that changed his fucking life. It changed my life to understand that. But listen, this is the crazy part. It took me 3.5 years to actually understand that. 3.5 years of real experimentation before
right.
before my
Wow.
mind was capable of
Wow.
understanding.
So that's
it
what I
wasn't
want to
something-
know. What was that 3.5 year experiment? What was the experiment? You were watching other people and
Oh,
the
it was so easy. And it was the same thing. I just watched my heart center, and it was so hard because when I was invited into network marketing, like I was going to be forced to do that. And my mind was very against that business model. Like there was no fucking way I was ever going to do that, but my heart wanted to. And that was the first time that I really saw a divide in
How do
myself.
you identify what your heart wants?
Because of the resonance. It's like inside myself, it'll feel like a joy or like an energy, like I have the energy to do that. Like everything inside of me is like moving towards it. And then my mind is like, yeah, but, and it's like trying to stop everything that my whole being is like moving to, just based on what it's been told.
One of
Mm.
the ideas that I've had about the heart center, and I'm saying this to see if you resonate to it, and this is my experience. You know, I have a radically open heart. I don't have anything in there. So how I have seen this in people is it's like someone with a bow and arrow, and they're like this, and they're like this, and when it lands on that, then they go poof, and it just goes.
There's nothing
Mm.
else.
Mm.
There's nothing else, regardless of anyone else. And that's the sad part. That's why it's the progress. There's no way that I could have sat here and built this foundation in my aloneness with the planets for 6 years without my defined ego. There's just no fucking way. Because my husband's looking at me like, do we need to institutionalize you? You know, like everybody's like, why aren't you making money? Like, are you capable of raising your children? You know, like I can't make eye contact. I can barely speak words. And it's like the
Mm.
only reason that I did that is because my heart knew. And my mind didn't even know what my heart knew. My mind was so sad. My mind was like, I don't know why I'm not making money. I don't know
Wow.
why I am seeing
Wow.
past lives, you know, but it's like my heart knew the whole time. And I've just followed that the whole time.
Mm.
I don't know
Mm.
how I survived it.
Yeah.
It
Well,
is
the
like a
will.
one track. Yeah,
You had
one
the
track
will.
will.
Wow, what a trip to
And
come
it's
to.
crazy because I didn't have the will to work, right? What I did have the will to do was take care of my children and gain my foundation. And I did that through small groups like this, like just talking about human design, taking people through their experiment, offering personal sessions. So I learned my new foundation by doing this with other people.
Well, you part of the thing had to be the disillusion of working because you're not here to work.
That whole thing. Well, and it's like it never really felt like work to me. And I think that was the problem too, because when you are in your alignment, you're like looking at everybody else like, why are you so miserable? You know, like, why aren't you doing what you like to do? I'm doing what I like to do, you know? And you're like, well, I like this. Come see if you like this, you know, because it's like I wasn't necessarily working. And then I was like, that's why nobody does what they love to do, because none of them are in the right place. I was like, if they were in the right place being who they are, they would be valuable where they are. They would be used who they are and appreciated where they are. They're not. They're all here, unvalued and trying to be me because they don't know who they are. And then I was like, fuck, I'm never going to be able to give people direction ever again. And I had to build a 6-year foundation. And now my direction is inner authority.
Right. Yeah, right on.
See, and you really are helping me get clear on this. Like, I've needed to get clear on this, and you are helping me close it today. Like, wow.
I have really determined of the 4 transformations, those are, you know, the PHS and the motivation and the view and the environment. As I started out by saying, I think the point of incarnation is the view. We're here to see what we're here to see so that our personality crystal can gain awareness.
That's so relaxing.
It's relaxing. It's so relaxing. Thank you. The other thing that I have determined, and this is from observation, is that if you're not doing well, the thing to get together with is environment. Just put yourself in the fucking right place, because just like what Lacy's saying, that's where the opportunities can come to you. That's where the connections can come to you. That's where the health and well-being can come to you. That's where your authority can be Embrace.
Yes.
So I need to move.
Do you need to move?
I think I need to move out of my place I live in. No,
Do
I
you
don't
need to
know.
move? Hey,
I
do you need,
mean, I'm not in my, I am not
I know.
in my environment, my correct environment. I make do, I figure it out, but it's,
Well, and here's something for me too. This is interesting for me right here. Because if us three are working together to label and bring the new, like what I know is that my trip over the last 6 years has been absolutely fucking perfect, even though I haven't made money, even though it's looked slow and alone, and that has been hard to defend and protect. But if you guys are in my movie and you guys have had a similar process, it's like maybe it seems stuck in limity and all that stuff because of what we were doing and like where Pluto's been, but it's like this website, whether you live there or in a new place, like maybe we have all been building a new environment and not necessarily realizing that that's what we're doing,
Mhm.
and like a new way for you to contribute or be yourself in a way that you never have before. And that could be really interesting. And so it's like, I don't know.
and yes, I agree with that. And um, it's all like an unfolding story, which I love. And so for me, it's more like, because I do put myself in my correct environment enough. Like I'm doing a burlesque show and I'm working on this thing and I'm getting ready to go to New York and San Francisco and, be in real, like lovely marketplace experiences. But I feel like until I'm actually in, especially with this radically open G center, until I'm actually in the right place. I feel like I am, but I'm not. It's an interesting thing.
You
When
need,
you say it, is it like a point of the earth, or is it like what you see, like the place that you're in? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what I see, like what I'm looking at right now, brings me pleasure and was relaxing. And it doesn't quite feel like like there's something,
Wow.
because I'm not in the marketplace.
You're like getting direction.
you're not near,
There
you're not,
is a marketplace feeling to where I am. Like a lot of people work here and, there's exchange around me, which is really good. Actually, now that I think of it more. Hmm.
You could be having your own ending right now.
so I'm just
Yeah,
asking,
well, yeah, no, it's so interesting because Max and I are always talking about, we're like, is this the end? I'm like, is this the end of this is the end of this cycle and this is the end of that one.
Yeah.
He has a similar
because
cross.
he's
So
had questions about living there too.
yeah,
Yeah.
we keep on feeling that this uh may be coming to a close. Yeah. And
That's
if that
awesome.
happens,
Want to
there's
ask,
also
Rachel, can I,
something that I was gonna say there's also something that we often talk about, which is how that might look for the two of us in our relationship as well.
yeah,
Because uh yeah, it's interesting being in a relationship with someone because there's always this feeling of what would it be like if I wasn't in the relationship? What could the experiment be going differently? And what would I be watching? What movie would I be watching? And noticing the ways in which I am compromising or the ways that I am, just even with our electromagnetics and the way that we work together. And there are, always this like, I could be having a completely different experience and it could be much bigger and in a way. And like I've never enjoyed anyone so much in my life
and
being
you have a
around.
lot more freedom in your relationship than most people have.
Oh, absolutely. And our relationship as role models, it's like, you know, from other people's point of view, it's like a pretty primo
Yeah,
thing to experience and be around an aura and everything. So it all feels right and it feels good. And yet there's this one part which is, and I don't know whether this is not self or self sometimes, which is the idea that there is a place for me that's more conducive to uh my inner authority being fully present, I guess.
Yeah.
Is there that place?
Especially the G center thing. Like he has such a strong G center, and I
Yeah,
love that.
he's
You know,
very
makes me,
eccentric.
he's very
That's
G
part of,
centric, and I have no activations there. So
I feel like it's, so if we were going to make these changes in a personal way, I feel like it's devastating because if certain people went together to do cross-up planning things, even if they were perfect in cross-up planning, okay, what happens if things start to change and a different person would be more perfect for what you're about to do? And it's like,
yeah,
in that new organization, like people are so confused. Everybody's like, no, like they're like, wait, I thought this, but it's perfect, and why? And then other people are like trying to get through communication blocks and they can't even speak to each other. So I feel like humans are so confused, and like everybody's just kind of grappling with that, like looking at changing partners, changing people, changing places, and if it happens, like I just try to let people do it like naturally and not blame it on each other, and just be like,
yeah,
if this is like happening, like let's allow and nurture and let it happen. And if it's not, then let's stay together.
Then let's
and that
allow nurture and let it happen.
yeah, and I think that is what will happen, and that's how it is. I think more um when I start talking about it, I feel the insecurity that I have about the change. I feel the insecurity of, oh, because I've made some choices in my life before to begin things that I got stuck in, or, made choices that I didn't. But it's just the open ego and open G that gets very like, ah.
Well, shall I share with you the inner vision that I saw when you were talking about this?
Mm-hmm.
Um, So I saw you, and you're standing poised in this moment. This moment is a positionality. I don't even
Mm-hmm.
know what that means, but
Mm-hmm.
that's accurate languaging
Mm-hmm.
for this. And I see this door open. This is all very soft. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The door opens and you look and you go, and then you go, and then you look back, and the Max is like, and you
Uh-huh.
step through, but there's not a breaking of bond.
Right.
For
No,
me, at third line, I'd want to break the bond. There's not a breaking of bond. But the
mm-hmm.
next thing that happens, so you step through, I saw it as New York, of course. You step through and there you're in New York. And the next thing you do is you go, oh, I have this lint on here. I have to take this lint. This is old thought forms.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Take the lint, which is old thought forms, and you just throw it off. And then you do your thing. And then you step back. But you're, I'm looking for the word, you are nourished in a deeper way that expands your inner being,
Mm-hmm.
because you went out, you let it like you let go, and then you could relax again. And it looks like you do this a number of times upcoming.
Yeah.
Just do this a number of times. You go out and just make sure you get rid of all that lint. When you get, you can't, you are not able to see the lint until you're in the new positionality.
And the light. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
With
there,
the correct lighting.
yeah,
Yeah, that resonates, and I believe it's already happening.
yeah, I think so.
I had a few experiences recently where that felt like it was happening, and there was like a realization or an actualization of a deeper um clarity and relaxation into myself as a result of stepping into through that door,
There's a
looking
stepping into,
this
yeah.
thing, stepping into that through that door into this other thing, and it's increasingly I'm becoming aware it is not going to look like what I think it's going to look like, not going to feel like what I think it's going to feel like. I'm going to be surprised, which is lovely. And yeah.
And just, you could even, like, when you get to the next new place, you could even do that kind of like a dog does to shake off its water, like
Which is
physically.
what I do every day. Yeah, that's my practice.
Oh,
Shake it up.
perfect,
I do
perfect.
that all the time.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, thank you for that inner vision moment. I can now translate it into my outer vision. It's just funny. Yeah, I feel that. And I feel also that Max is going through something similar. So adjusting. And so we're just kind of like playing, and it's very much a lovely dance because he's in his experiment as well. So you
That's
get to
magnificent. Yeah.
dance.
So shall I share the vision I just saw for Max?
Yeah.
So you go out and he's there and he like reconfigure, 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 but in his cave, reconfigure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
gets grounded in this whole new
Yeah.
kind of this new sexy embodiment. And
Yeah.
I don't mean sexual per se, but it's like there's something so sexy about Max because he embodies himself really well.
Yeah.
But that itself is going to enhance. Like as you move out and move into the risk of being more you, your role model self, he gets
Yeah.
there going, oh, this role model. And it's like this nectar kind of comes through his body and he reconfigures into this.
Yeah. That's the vibe. Yeah.
I'm like fucking beginnings and ends. They
Yeah.
haunt me.
Yeah.
And
For sure.
it's so funny because they just happen, and if we can just recognize them happening and communicate them happening, then it's fine. But it's like we
Yeah.
don't.
And also celebrate them happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you guys are so good.
Really.
Like you're so lucky to have this experience of it being so beautiful and just like being able to watch yourself and another
Mhm.
honor yourself so fucking hard. Like that's a high consciousness experience, you know?
It really is.
It really is. That's self-actualization right fucking there because you love somebody enough. And like you love the flower and you don't pick it. Like that is living to me.
That's my favorite song. Love is a Rose. You know that song?
No, I
Love
didn't even
is
know
a
it was a
rose.
song.
Let me hear you. Let me sing it. Love is a rose. Love is a rose, but you better not pick it. It only grows when it's on the vine. Handful of thorns, and you know you missed it. Lose your love when you say the word mine.
Oh, I never knew what that said. Oh my
Ah,
God.
isn't that a
I
great
love
song?
that.
That's one of my favorite songs. I love it.
Now I'm gonna have to go find that. That's such a good G Center
Let me sing
song.
it again and then I'm
Yeah.
going to stop the recording because I like that.
Okay. Love is a rose, but you better not pick it. It only grows when it's on the vine. Handful of thorns, and you know you missed it. Lose your love when you say the word mine.